The Jinui acknowledged the order, showing how seriously I took this threat. I hadn't conquered the Ogre Empire just to let it slip away. The costs of such a war were immense. I wouldn't allow the flames of war to reignite just as I was reaping the rewards. Unbeknownst to me, the entire Ogre Empire was already descending into chaos. The Kunwu report was just the beginning. The enemy was striking everywhere. Kunwu was the primary target, but 500 miles away lay Xinfu City. Xinfu had 50,000 migrants, but only 1,000 guards, as the main force was stationed at strategic borders. Bai Qi couldn't stay forever. He needed to deter neighboring alien nations. The Yanhuang Empire couldn't spare more troops for internal security. With most forces tied up at Yixianshan Canyon, manpower was stretched thin. Consequently, local garrisons were minimal. The 100,000 troops were spread across the empire to secure strategic points. The interior was left largely undefended. The commander at Xinfu was named Bai Qi, a name that often drew mockery. He was a far cry from the legendary General Bai Qi. Though he didn't aspire to greatness, he was diligent, and his troops were well trained. Xinfu remained in ruins from the initial conquest. However, its geography was excellent. Mountains on two sides, water on one, and a single eastern gap. Bai Qi divided his men into 50 patrols, focusing 30 on the eastern gap. Each patrol maintained a signal fire. Bai Qi kept 500 men in the city to handle both defense and policing. They were overworked and spread thin. As Kunwu was attacked, the Restoration Army arrived at Xinfu. "Commander, are you sure there's treasure here? This seems suspicious." The ogre leader boasted, "I was a squad leader here. The Emperor cares about this place. Look at our gear. If 30,000 of us can't crush 1,000 humans, we're a disgrace. Right? We'll drown them in spit and eat them alive." It's been ages since I tasted human flesh. It is pathetic that a mere squad leader is now idolized by the ogres. It shows just how far their race has fallen. They only dare fight because of the high-quality gear provided to them, coupled with the desperation forced by the Yanhuang Empire's scorched earth tactics. These hideous ogres have gathered with their sights set on Xinfu City. Over 30 of them began arguing heatedly over attack strategies. Each convinced their own plan was superior. They are a disorganized rabble, incapable of unified command or discipline. Yet, amidst their bickering, a figure in black appeared. Wrapped in a massive cloak that obscured my race and features, my mere presence silenced the ogres instantly. An ogre general approached cautiously. "Envoy, why have you come in person?" They dared not offend me, as their food, supplies, and equipment all came from this mysterious figure. "This battle must not fail. From now on, you obey my orders," the envoy commanded, showing blatant disdain for them. I mused internally that if these useless ogres weren't still of use to my master, I would rather see them wiped out by the Yanhuang Empire than support such garbage rebels. The envoy continued to issue orders while harboring these contemptuous thoughts. With my arrival, the ogre horde finally possessed a unified command. "Advance. Maintain stealth and vigilance," the envoy ordered, and the ogres charged forward. Seeing their lack of discipline, the envoy flicked my hand, instantly decapitating an ogre general. "Silence. We are on a covert mission. Anyone who makes noise again will be executed." The terrified ogres dared not utter a sound. They took heart in their numbers, 30,000 against 1,000, and the superior armor and weapons they carried. Many were equipped with Ninghan-grade gear, giving them the confidence to believe they could crush the Yanhuang invaders. At the Xinfu first outpost, squad leader Lu Yi sat idly, as he was currently off duty. "Squad leader, I need to relieve myself." A dim-witted soldier named Xiao Lu shouted this at him suddenly. Startled, Lu Yi barked, "Damn it, Xiao Lu, do you want to deafen me?" "Hold it." Yanhuang military discipline is strict. Despite Lu Yi's casual nature, his order meant Xiao Lu could not move. The other off-duty soldiers chuckled. "Let him go, squad leader, unless you want to smell the results later." Lu Yi waved his hand. "Go quickly, but take your weapon." Xiao Lu grabbed his saber and scrambled off. An old soldier joked about the sweltering heat and the soldiers on duty, who stood like statues. Lu Yi nodded, agreeing it was stifling. Suddenly, he stood up, alert. What was that sound? The soldiers on duty remained motionless despite the heat. Lu Yi stood, scanning the horizon. His movement prompted the nearby soldiers to grab their weapons and prepare for trouble. "What is it, squad leader?" the old soldier asked. "Did you hear that?" "It sounded like an ogre's growl," Lu Yi replied. As a veteran of past conflicts with the Ogre Empire, Lu Yi was sensitive to their presence. The others listened intently, but heard nothing. "You must be overthinking it, squad leader. We're deep in our own territory." Before he could finish, a hail of black arrows rained down, and a horde of ogres surged over the horizon. "Damn it! Enemy attack!" Lu Yi roared and rushed toward the beacon tower, a simple structure of stacked wood. Realizing his intent, his men followed, shouting, "Protect the squad leader! Light the beacon!" They charged forward, despite lacking armor to defend against the arrow storm. A soldier blocked arrows for Lu Yi, swinging his saber desperately. Arrows pierced flesh with sickening thuds. The soldier didn't retreat, using his own body as a shield for Lu Yi. Lu Yi knew his men were sacrificing themselves so the alarm could be raised to warn Xinfu City. More arrows struck home. Lu Yi heard the sounds of his comrades falling, shielding him with their lives. Screams and roars filled the air as soldiers fell one by one. It was clear the first outpost was doomed, but they had to make their deaths count by lighting the beacon. "Squad leader, watch out!" It was Xiao Lu, shouting from nearby. Xiao Lu was simple-minded, and Lu Ye's past harshness had been a way to ensure his survival. In the Ogre Empire, only strict discipline could keep a soldier alive. Lu Yi gritted his teeth and raced to light the fire, unable to tell Xiao Lu to flee. In the Yanhuang Empire, there are only soldiers who die in battle, never deserters. While the Jinui report hadn't arrived, I was already deducing the situation. Whatever their conspiracy, it is a joke in the face of absolute power. I remained calm, considering that I needed to send a great general like Lu Bu to oversee the new settlements. I decided that appointing Lu Bu as a military commander in the Ogre Empire was the perfect move. Pass my decree. Lu Bu is appointed General of Reclamation for the Ogre territory, with full authority over its military affairs. Trusting in Lu Bu's proven capabilities, I saw this as a prime opportunity for the newcomer to earn merit. Lu Bu departed immediately with several hundred elite Imperial Guards. Meanwhile, the battle at Xinfeng City raged on. A civil official approached Commander Bai Qi, suggesting they evacuate the women and children. The man was an elderly official, one of the few permitted among the settlers due to his administrative role. He was specifically responsible for overseeing the expansion and cultivation efforts around Xinfeng City. Initially, the defenders had felt no fear, even against the 30,000 Ogre Restoration Army soldiers. Under I, the Yanhuang Empire and the human race had been reborn, no longer vulnerable to bullying by other clans. However, confidence did not translate directly to the harsh reality of combat. Though the Ogre Restoration Army was a disorganized rabble, they were well-equipped and fueled by a deep, vengeful hatred for the Yanhuang Empire. With only 1,000 regular soldiers and 10,000 untrained civilians, defending the dilapidated Xinfeng City was an uphill struggle. Bai Qi smiled bitterly at the official. "Retreat? Where? The ogres have blocked the hills, and we lack the vessels to cross the river. Should we send the women and children into the mountains to be eaten?" The official froze, realizing the hopelessness of the situation, and sighed. "Alas." Bai Qi waved him off. "Enough. We hold Xinfeng City. We have supplies here. Leaving means certain death. Word of our siege has been sent. The Emperor will surely send reinforcements. When they arrive, I will personally scalp every one of these ogres." Bai Qi's expression was fierce. The last few days of defense had cost him dearly. To bolster the civilian militia, he had been forced to embed his own soldiers as low-level officers. This dilution of force, combined with dwindling armaments, made the fighting exceptionally difficult. The breach in the wall was piled high with corpses. Evacuation was impossible, even for his own family. Xinfeng City was completely isolated from the outside world. With the only exit blocked by ogres, they had no choice but to fight to the death. The siege of Xinfeng City was, in fact, a calculated move by shadowy puppet masters. They needed a victory to ignite the fighting spirit of the millions of remaining ogres. Xinfeng City held no treasures. The siege was purely a catalyst to provoke a desperate, all-out war against the Yanhuang Empire. These conspirators poured immense resources into the ogres, expecting a return on their investment. Without profit, they would never care for the ogres' survival. Their plan was to force the Yanhuang Empire to commit one or two of its main legions to the conflict. Once the main forces were bogged down, they would open other fronts for a comprehensive assault. These schemes were kept secret, as discovery by me would mean certain doom for the participating clans. The Anti-Su-Yu Alliance orchestrated this, with many members of the 100 Tribes Alliance secretly providing support. National alliances meant little compared to profit. Without gain, all talk of loyalty was empty. Even with profit, alliances were fragile in the face of the brutal, existential nature of clan warfare. The Ogre Empire's collapse was proof of that. The Anti-Su-Yu Alliance's strategy was brilliant. Use the ogres to force Yanhuang into a quagmire while remaining detached from the ogres' ultimate fate. They cared nothing for the ogres. They only wanted to destabilize the 100 Tribes Alliance. They sought to shatter the alliance the moment they saw an opportunity for gain. Everyone realized that suppressing the Ogre Rebellion would require a massive commitment of Yanhuang manpower. By combining this with further attacks and promises of profit, they hoped to weaken the rising Yanhuang Empire. They aimed to trap the empire in a war of attrition, potentially reversing the current geopolitical landscape. While my past military successes kept many at bay, the promises made by the Anti-Su-Yu Alliance were tempting enough to sway several nations. Many clans chose to withdraw from the 100 Tribes Alliance, prioritizing immediate gain over long-term stability. The news spread rapidly across the eastern continent. Major empires within the 100 Tribes Alliance declared their withdrawal and severed ties with Yanhuang. After a few days of silence, I officially announced the dissolution of the alliance. I had only formed the alliance to use the treaties to absorb the Ogre Empire's assets. If the alliance was falling apart, I was happy to cut ties with these ungrateful opportunists. Though the Jinyui had yet to report, I began deducing the situation based on the available intelligence. Whatever their schemes, they are nothing but a joke in the face of absolute power. I remained calm. I realized I needed a strong general to oversee the new settlements, and Lu Bu was the ideal candidate. Appointing Lu Bu as a military commander in the Ogre territory was the perfect choice. Pass my decree. Lu Bu is appointed General of Reclamation for the Ogre territory, with full authority over its military affairs. Trusting in Lu Bu's capabilities, I sent him off with elite guards. Meanwhile, at Xinfeng City, the battle intensified. A civil official begged Commander Bai Qi to evacuate the women and children. The official was an elderly man, one of the few permitted to hold an administrative post. He was responsible for the expansion and cultivation efforts surrounding the city. Initially, the defenders had felt no fear, even against the 30,000 Ogre Restoration Army soldiers. Under I, the Yanhuang Empire and the human race had been reborn, no longer vulnerable to bullying. However, confidence did not translate directly to the harsh reality of combat. Though the Ogre Restoration Army was a disorganized rabble, they were well-equipped and fueled by deep, vengeful hatred. With only 1,000 regular soldiers and 10,000 untrained civilians, defending the dilapidated city was an uphill struggle. Bai Qi smiled bitterly. Retreat? Where? The ogres have blocked the hills, and we lack the vessels to cross the river. Should we send the women and children into the mountains to be eaten? The official froze, realizing the hopelessness of the situation, and sighed. Alas! Bai Qi waved him off. Enough. We hold Xinfeng City. We have supplies here. Leaving means death. Word of our siege has been sent. The Emperor will surely send reinforcements. When they arrive, I will personally scalp every one of these ogres. Bai Qi's expression was fierce. The last few days of defense had cost him dearly. Bai Qi integrated his soldiers into the untrained militia as low-level officers, as he could not rely on the raw recruits alone. This dilution of strength, combined with severe equipment shortages in Xinfeng City, made the defense exceptionally difficult. The breach in the city wall was piled high with corpses. Despite my desire to evacuate the women and children, including my own family, it was impossible. Xinfeng City was completely cut off from the outside world. With the only exit blocked by ogres, the city faced a desperate fight to the death. The siege was a calculated move by those pulling the strings from the shadows. They needed a decisive victory to ignite the fighting spirit of the millions of ogre remnants. Xinfeng City held no treasures. The siege was purely a strategic ploy to goad the ogre remnants into a suicidal war against the Yanhuang Empire. The shadow conspirators poured vast resources into the ogres, but never without ulterior motives. Without the promise of profit, these conspirators would never care if the ogres lived or died. Their plan was to force the Yanhuang Empire to commit its main legions to the conflict. By pinning down these main forces, they hoped to open new fronts and launch a comprehensive assault on the Yanhuang Empire. These actions had to remain covert, as my discovery would mean certain destruction for the participating races. The Anti-Su-Yu Alliance orchestrated this, with many members of the 100 Tribes Alliance secretly supporting the ogres. National alliances are governed by profit. Without it, loyalty is meaningless. Even with profit, alliances are fragile, as evidenced by the brutal fate of the Ogre Empire. The Anti-Su-Yu Alliance's strategy was brilliant. Defeat could mean total extinction for a race. By inciting the Ogre Rebellion, they forced the Yanhuang Empire to focus its attention elsewhere, indifferent to the ogres' eventual annihilation. Their true goal was to shatter the 100 Tribes Alliance for their own gain. Everyone realized the Yanhuang Empire would have to commit significant manpower to quell the ogre uprising. The Anti-Su-Yu Alliance planned to capitalize on this distraction, using promises and provocations to sway other members of the 100 Tribes Alliance. They hoped to trap the rising Yanhuang Empire in a quagmire of endless war. Tempted by the prospect of profit and the Alliance's promises, many races began to waver, despite their fear of my military might. Many races chose to withdraw from the 100 Tribes Alliance, prioritizing immediate gains over long-term stability. News of these shifts swept across the eastern continent. Several major empires announced their withdrawal from the 100 Tribes Alliance and severed ties with Yanhuang, leading me to formally dissolve the alliance. I had originally formed the alliance to control these races while I absorbed the Ogre Empire. Now, I preferred to cut ties with these ungrateful allies rather than be dragged down by them. Initially, few paid attention to the Ogre remnants, assuming the Yanhuang Empire would crush them easily. It was only a matter of time. However, a world-shaking announcement soon followed the rebellion. The Dark Elf, Three-Eyed, Elemental, Half-Dragon, and Winged Empires all simultaneously withdrew from the 100 Tribes Alliance. The dissolution of the alliance shocked the world. These 5 empires joined the Anti-Su-Yu Alliance, led by the Dark Knight Empire, shifting the continent's power balance. Many believed the Yanhuang Empire was finished, now facing a vastly superior coalition. The news left the people of the eastern continent in disbelief. The Anti-Su-Yu Alliance absorbed the former members and rebranded as the Knight Alliance. The changes were rapid, yet I remained unmoved. I never truly relied on the 100 Tribes Alliance. If they couldn't be tamed, they could be destroyed. The Dark Knight Monarch's influence was rising, even overshadowing me, as he gained the support of the top-ranked Winged Emperor. The Dark Knight Monarch was indeed a capable strategist, but a mere ogre rebellion was insufficient to pin down the Yanhuang Empire's main legions. I ordered Lu Bu to purge the Ogre Empire, declaring that those who left the alliance would receive no share of the spoils. I commanded Lu Bu to show no mercy to any non-human race, signaling a coming bloodbath. I realized the rebellion had been planned since Bai Qi first defeated the ogres. They had used the ogre issue to manipulate the entire 100 Tribes Alliance, while I was focused on the human alliance front. I acknowledged the cunning of my enemies. Yet, their plan was flawed. The Ogre Rebellion would not last long. Lu Bu's arrival would spell the end for the Ogre remnants. With the annexation of the Ogre Empire largely complete, the 100 Tribes Alliance was expendable. I chose to let my enemies gloat while the Yanhuang Empire consolidated its gains, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. Resources continued to flow from the Ogre Empire into Yanhuang. It was impossible for all millions of Ogre remnants to rise up against Yanhuang. Furthermore, no one was willing to provide them with significant equipment. Other races viewed supporting the ogres as a waste of resources, indifferent to their survival. I withheld public support energy from Lu Bu, both to keep my trump cards hidden and because I trusted the Divine General's capability. If Lu Bu couldn't handle a simple rebellion, he wouldn't be worth my trust. Lu Bu arrived at the Ogre Empire with a light force, choosing Kunwa City as his base for training. With only 100,000 Yanhuang troops scattered across the territory, forming a new, concentrated army was essential for suppression. Lu Bu faced not only ogre remnants, but also opportunists and agents left behind by the anti-Suyu alliance. With fewer than 50,000 troops immediately available, training a new army and rescuing Xinfeng City were both top priorities. The Battle of Xinfu City has raged for 10 days, leaving the city in ruins. Though not the historical Bai Qi, the Yanhuang commander Bai Qi is equally ruthless in his defense of this isolated stronghold. Xinfu City is now a city of total mobilization. Every citizen, regardless of age or gender, is fighting. They scavenge weapons from the fallen to sustain the defense. They are determined to hold the city at any cost, though the Ogre Restoration Army is nearing a breaking point. Xinfu City has suffered nearly 10,000 casualties, but they have inflicted nearly 20,000 on the Ogre forces. Bai Qi knows that in this isolated siege, he must employ every possible tactic to cripple the enemy. Killing is simple, a single strike ends a life. But to truly drag the enemy down, mere killing isn't enough. Bai Qi issued an unconventional order: take no prisoners. He even leaves the wounded to wail on the battlefield rather than executing them, a strategy that seems baffling but proves highly effective. The Ogre Empire's greatest weakness is its dwindling population. The Ogre Restoration Army refuses to abandon any kin, even those crippled or unable to fight. With their empire destroyed, they cannot bring themselves to leave their wounded behind. The Ogre camp is now a place of despair, filled with the constant, demoralizing cries of the wounded. Each day, they bury those who succumb to their injuries, despite having been rescued from the front lines. The supervisor from the Night Alliance is furious, wishing to execute the wounded to save resources. The Alliance only provides limited supplies to force the ogres to drain Yanhuang's strength. The ogre general begs the supervisor for medicine, but the supervisor offers only empty promises. The ogre general is powerless, his people are refugees, and even their new emperor must bow to the Night Alliance. They endure this humiliation, hoping to reclaim their lands by defeating the Yanhuang Empire. Out of 30,000 ogres, only 7,000 have died, but over 10,000 are now wounded. The camp is a cycle of mourning, with carts constantly hauling away the dead. These ogres were once farmers and craftsmen, never trained for such brutal, prolonged warfare. Their initial fervor for restoration is crumbling as they witness the suffering of their kin. They fear that if they continue, they will be the next to die in agony. Desertions have begun. The army's morale is collapsing under the weight of their own casualties. To make matters worse, a terrifying rumor spreads through the ranks. Word travels that a Yanhuang general has arrived to lead a total annihilation of their forces. Panic sets in as they realize the Yanhuang army's arrival spells their doom. Desperate cries of "I don't want to die" echo through the camp. Fear permeates the ogre encampment daily. Lu Bu's arrival is the final straw, triggering the desertion of thousands more soldiers. The ogre general is helpless to stop it. Even their emperor has forbidden further internal bloodshed. The Night Alliance supervisor wants to execute deserters, but fears doing so would cause the entire army to shatter. This ragtag group is falling apart, and news of Lu Bu's arrival has spread far beyond Xinfeng City. Night Alliance spies scramble to determine the size of my reinforcements. They are stunned to discover it is only a few hundred men led by an unknown general. After all their effort and supplies, this is all the Yanhuang Empire sent? Without a major Yanhuang force, the Alliance cannot convince other races to attack. No one is willing to risk my wrath without a guaranteed victory. Realizing the ogres are useless, the Dark Knight Empire decides to intervene directly. To disrupt my plans, they secretly dispatch their own troops. They send 100,000 men, enough to exert pressure without overcommitting. These troops are tasked with training the ogre remnants and keeping them in line. They are given a deceptive, prestigious title. They are called the Ogre Emperor's Imperial Guard, but their true purpose is to force the ogres into a suicidal war against Yanhuang. The ogres are now merely a tool to delay me. The Dark Knight Empire hopes to lure Yanhuang's main legions into a trap to create an opening for invasion. With Lu Bu handling the ogre situation, I prepare to return to the capital. The current campaign has concluded, and my presence at the front is no longer required. The next morning, the Yanhuang army begins its withdrawal, with elite units boarding the Crimson airships. News of the Emperor's return ignites excitement across the entire Yanhuang Empire. People line the roads for hundreds of miles, hoping for a glimpse of their emperor. Citizens arrive at dawn to secure the best vantage points to welcome the army home. The wealthy use their influence to secure prime viewing spots along the route. I have earned the absolute devotion of my people. They don't just respect me. They worship me for granting them dignity and protection from oppression. The entire empire is gripped by a fanatical, heartfelt reverence for their emperor. Even the common folk are satisfied just to see the army pass from a distance. Scholars compose poems in my honor, and even children recite songs praising my deeds. In every tea house and tavern, the primary topic of conversation is my path of conquest and Yanhuang's victories. One can often hear thunderous shouts of "Long live the Emperor" echoing in the streets. People join in the cheers instinctively, even without knowing the specific context of the praise. The Jinui monitor these displays, but I remain magnanimous and ignore the fervor. I felt that while mobilizing so many people to welcome me hindered production, the gesture was a sign of their genuine devotion. Touched by their worship, I chose to accept, cherish, and protect them in return. Furthermore, the Yanhuang Empire required such displays of national spirit. This unity, a populace and military acting as one, was exactly the outcome I desired. However, I had neglected to issue orders to prevent the public from disrupting local affairs during my return. The resulting scenes of empty streets and massive crowds were entirely due to my own oversight. Everywhere I went, the cheers of "Long live" shook the mountains. These were spontaneous gatherings, not orchestrated by local officials. I wondered which other monarch could command such sincere, nationwide adoration. Despite the fervor, I could not personally greet the crowds. Stopping anywhere would imply favoritism, and I viewed all citizens as equally precious. Upon returning to the palace, I issued a formal decree. By the grace of heaven, the Emperor decrees, our victories are the merit of the people. To reward their loyalty, I declare a nationwide tax exemption for 1 year. The human race shall prevail. This decree sent the entire Yanhuang Empire into a frenzy of excitement. The tax exemption was a tangible benefit that resonated deeply, sparking renewed cries of "Long live the Emperor! Long live Yanhuang! Victory to the human race!" The deafening roar of the people shook the heavens and echoed across the world. To the neighboring empires, this sound was piercing and unsettling. Monarchs and officials across the eastern continent fell into a stunned silence, marveling at Yanhuang's unity. Some lamented that they would never experience such genuine support from their own subjects. Others envied Su Yu's achievements, admitting they could never hope to match his rapport with his people. Reactions ranged from shock and admiration to deep sighs of frustration. Some detractors cursed the ignorant populace for supporting Su Yu, claiming they were doomed if he ever fell. Others waited for Su Yu's downfall, hoping his aggressive expansion would eventually lead to his ruin. The Dark Knight Empire, feeling superior in strength, watched closely, waiting for the Ogre Empire's unrest to overwhelm Su Yu. Every race and empire on the eastern continent kept a watchful eye on the Yanhuang Empire. It was clear to any observer that the people's respect for Su Yu was entirely sincere. While some envied him, many others were waiting for him to stumble. The internal turmoil within the Ogre Empire was no longer a secret. Even without knowing of the Dark Knight Empire's interference, the Ogre remnants alone posed a significant threat to Yanhuang's garrison. The world watched to see how Su Yu would handle this crisis. They wondered if he would dare divert troops, potentially leaving his borders vulnerable to the starving wolves circling his empire. If he didn't intervene, they questioned how he could possibly pacify the Ogre Restoration Army. The Restoration Army boasted 2 million troops, while Yanhuang had only 100,000 new recruits stationed there. The commander, Lu Bu, was a complete unknown, absent from the list of Yanhuang's famous generals. Despite their exhaustive intelligence gathering, no one had ever heard of Lu Bu, leading them to underestimate him. I, however, was confident. Beyond the 100,000 garrison troops, Lu Bu had trained an additional 230,000 new soldiers. I believed Lu Bu's prowess was more than enough to crush the ogre rebels easily. I gave Lu Bu full autonomy, waiting for the right moment to deliver a fatal blow. Lu Bu did not keep me waiting long. At the Kunwu City drill ground, his scouts reported they were ready to strike. His officers urged him to deploy, eager for the new recruits to gain combat experience. Lu Bu sat on his command throne and nodded. He expressed concern for Xinfu City, which had been left unsupported for the sake of the larger strategy. Indeed, he had only sent minimal supplies via the river, withholding direct military aid. His officers reassured him that the commander of Xinfu City, Bai Qi, understood the plan. They were confident that Bai Qi would not act rashly, trusting in the emperor's strategic vision. They trusted Lu Bu implicitly, knowing the emperor would not appoint an incompetent leader. Lu Bu nodded, trusting in Bai Qi's resolve. Before arriving, Lu Bu had consulted with Marquis Wu Zhuge, who was overseeing the development of the ogre territory. Zhuge had provided the strategic framework for the operation. The core of the plan relied entirely on the situation at Xinfu City. Zhuge realized that delaying the rescue was the best strategy. The ogre rebels needed a victory at Xinfu to boost their morale and recruit more followers. The rebels viewed Xinfu as a minor immigrant settlement and hoped to destroy it to demoralize the Yanhuang population. This served both their internal needs and the objectives of the Dark Knight Empire's envoys. They committed 30,000 elite troops to surround the city, which had only one exit. While they thought they had trapped the defenders, the reality proved far more difficult. The ogre rebels found Xinfu to be a hard bone that broke their teeth. Bai Qi was cunning. He refused to kill prisoners, instead wounding them and sending them back to the rebel camp. This forced the rebels to care for their own wounded, effectively crippling their combat efficiency. In the past, the ogre empire might have executed the wounded, but they dared not do so now. Such an order would have caused the ogre restoration army to collapse from within. The ogre empire is nearly extinct, leaving few for the Yanhuang Empire to hunt, let alone for the ogres to fight amongst themselves. Helpless, the new ogre emperor was forced to send reinforcements. Yet, they still couldn't take Xinfu City. The reason is simple. Constant combat has turned the city's ordinary immigrant defenders into elite warriors. They repurposed captured ogre restoration army weapons and armor, turning the enemy's own gear against them. Xinfu City became a quagmire, forcing the ogre restoration army to divert their planned march on Kunwu City to deal with this single obstacle. They must destroy Xinfu City to boost morale, as panic is spreading through the ogre ranks despite their hatred for the human race. This is a dangerous sign. These soldiers were already terrified by the Yanhuang Empire and only dared to dream of restoration because the main Yanhuang army had withdrawn. If this panic continues, the restoration army will collapse soon. If that happens, the ogre race will lose its final chance and be systematically exterminated by the Yanhuang Empire. General Lu, the ogre restoration army has arrived with millions. The ogre emperor is leading them personally to boost morale, and their target is Xinfu City. An officer exclaimed, marveling at how Lu Bu had accurately predicted the ogres would obsessively target Xinfu City. Lu Bu stood up abruptly. Finally, order the entire army to march. Execute the plan as prepared. No new orders were needed. The strategy had been ready for a long time. They had been waiting for the ogres to walk into the trap. Lu Bu intended to wipe them out completely this time. He sneered at the mention of the 100,000 Imperial Guards. The Dark Knight Empire's meddling would prove futile, and their investment would be wasted. Following Lu Bu's command, 50,000 garrison troops, 230,000 new army soldiers, and 30,000 laborers mobilized. Kunwu City was left empty as the campaign to crush the ogre rebellion began. General, the new army's left flank is in position. General, the right flank and center are ready. Lu Bu remained cold and emotionless as the reports poured in. Today was the day they had trained for. Soldiers, the Emperor is watching, and the entire Yanhuang Empire is watching. Are you afraid to win glory today? No fear. No fear. No fear. Good. I will lead you to victory, and your names will reach the Emperor's ears. The prospect of me personally reading their names drove the army and laborers into a frenzy of zeal. Lu Bu raised his halberd, roaring, "Long live the Emperor! For the Emperor! For glory! Long live the Emperor! For glory! Kill! Kill! Kill!" The roar of tens of thousands shook the earth, a sound that reached the Ogre Restoration Army. The Ogre Emperor felt uneasy, though he took some comfort in his elite Imperial Guard, the Dark Knight Empire's soldiers. "Do not fear. We have 2 million. They only have 3 million immigrants and 100,000 soldiers. With the Dark Knight Empire's help, we will restore our nation." The Ogre Emperor expected a rousing cheer, hoping to mirror the Yanhuang army's spirit. Instead, he was met with only scattered, weak responses. On the battlefield, the Ogre Restoration Army had already been intimidated by the Yanhuang army's roar, many turning pale. Only their numerical superiority of 2 million kept them from breaking immediately. They were merely stray dogs. Even armed to the teeth, they were pathetic. The Dark Knight Empire had only provided 500,000 sets of gear, not infinite supplies. Most of the Restoration Army relied on crude, self-made weapons or scavenged gear from their own fallen. "Garrison, you are the vanguard. Charge. Left and right wings, strike the flanks once the center engages. No failure will be tolerated. Attack." Lu Bu charged on his red-hair horse, bypassing all formalities of traditional warfare. These ogre remnants weren't worthy of a formal duel. He intended to end them in one decisive blow. He would show the Emperor that he was no less capable than Bai Qi. Kill. The 50,000 veterans launched a desperate charge against 2 million enemies, their momentum far eclipsing the massive ogre force. Finally, Xinfu City, charge. "I've had enough of waiting." This order came from the Xinfu City commander, Bai Qi. Only 5,000 defenders remained in Xinfu City after relentless fighting had decimated their ranks. Yet, at the command, these exhausted men sprang to life and charged without hesitation. Though wounded and in rags, the 5,000 erupted with a ferocious, iron-blooded aura. Kill. The ogres are endless, but the human spirit is unbreakable. Die. The soldiers roared with inhuman intensity, fueled by a desperate, blood-soaked resolve. With bloodshot eyes, they stared down the ogres, ready to prove whose blade was sharper and whose faith was stronger. It was only the beginning, yet the Restoration Army was already on the verge of collapse. Between the initial roar and this fearless charge, the more cowardly ogres were terrified to the point of incontinence. They were nothing but broken slaves of a fallen nation. Their morale was shattered before the clash even began. A single charge was enough to trigger desertions. Many had joined the Restoration Army only for food and safety from pursuit. Their courage had died the moment the Ogre Empire fell. They had no stomach for a real fight against the Yanhuang army. Ah! A scream rang out as an elite soldier turned and fled, triggering a mass rout. Lu Bu was stunned. The enemy was fleeing before the real fight had even started. He had expected a grand slaughter, but seeing the sea of fleeing ogres, he couldn't help but laugh. The garrison and new army soldiers joined in his laughter, their tension replaced by amusement at the pathetic outcome. "What are you waiting for? Chase them down and kill them all. Useless trash." Lu Bu spurred his horse forward. With a swift strike, the Ogre Emperor was decapitated by his own Imperial Guard commander. The Imperial Guard commander, acting for the Dark Knight Empire, was furious as his mission collapsed before it even began. He had hoped the 2 million ogres could at least exhaust the Yanhuang Empire's forces, but they proved to be nothing more than spineless, domesticated livestock. Watching the black tide of fleeing ogres, the commander simply shouted, "Retreat." The 100,000 Dark Knight Empire troops fled without hesitation. They had no intention of covering for the ogres. The rout began. As the ogres stampeded, Lu Bu led his few hundred Black Jade Cavalry Imperial Guards in a relentless pursuit. "Lu Fengxian of the northern frontier is here. Who dares fight?" Lu Bu's roar shook the battlefield. Astride his red hair, he swung his halberd, slaughtering hundreds in a single strike. Knowing he needed to demonstrate military command rather than just personal prowess, Lu Bu led his expressionless Imperial Guards to carve through the battlefield, splitting the Ogre Restoration Army and forcing them back. "One more step and you die," Lu Bu bellowed, his halberd impaled with ogre heads. "Run! Don't kill me!" The ogres shrieked in terror. The panicked mob collided head-on with the advancing Yanhuang new army. The new army soldiers cheered at the sight of 3 million military merits, waiting to be reaped. Kill. They charged, initiating a one-sided massacre. Blood flowed freely. These million-plus ogres were merely peasants with weapons, abandoned by their leaders and devoid of fighting spirit. They were no match for the humans, especially with the legendary realm powerhouse Lu Bu instantly executing any ogre who dared to resist. Invincible. Lu Bu roared with every strike, his gang chi claiming countless lives. His legendary realm aura erupted across the field. It's a legendary. A human legendary expert, the ogres cried in despair. Lu Bu's presence paralyzed them. No one expected this obscure general to be a legendary powerhouse. Inspired, the human soldiers roared. We are the human race. Invincible. Lu Bu and his cavalry hunted for the ogre emperor amidst the slaughter. When he finally found the emperor, only the head remained, the body trampled into a pulp. Bah! Bad luck, I missed out on the big credit. Lu Bu spat, hung the head from his waist, and shouted, kill them all. Since the emperor was already dead, he would claim his merit through the slaughter of the remaining horde. Within a single day, the million-strong army was wiped out. The eastern continent was stunned by the sudden collapse of the ogre restoration army. They fell in less than a day. Were they pigs? And Yanhuang did it with only 100,000 men and some recruits. Lu Bu, just an unknown Yanhuang general. How could he train such a force so quickly? The ogre empire deserved to fall if their restoration army was this pathetic. The eastern continent was in an uproar of shock and sighs. Lu Bu's name became known, though many dismissed his victory as luck against a broken army. Only a few suspected he was a legendary expert. With all the ogres dead, the truth remained unconfirmed. Regardless, the Yanhuang Empire had secured its borders, allowing for rapid, unhindered development. Without the ogre threat, the Dark Knight Alliance's schemes were neutralized. The Dark Knight monarch remained unbothered, confident that the dissolution of the 100 Tribes Alliance left him safe from Yanhuang. Both sides entered a period of consolidation. I focused on war dividends, while the monarch tightened his grip on the alliance. Both sides waited, competing to see who could grow faster before the next inevitable conflict. It was merely a temporary truce between two destined rivals. 3 days after my return, envoys from the 100 tribes arrived to pay tribute. In the Yanhuang court, officials stood to my left, while foreign envoys stood to my right. Hundreds of envoys filled the hall, matching the number of Yanhuang officials. They stood with heads bowed, not daring to look at me on the throne. To an outsider, they looked like subjects of the Yanhuang Empire. Court assembly begins. The eunuch's voice pierced the air. Kneel. The hall fell silent as everyone knelt, foreheads touching the floor. Salute, the eunuch cried. Long live the emperor. The crowd chanted 3 times, their voices rising in intensity. The roar was so loud it echoed through the palace and into the capital streets. I, usually indifferent to protocol, insisted on the full ritual for this occasion. The synchronized chanting displayed the majesty of the emperor and the unity of the Yanhuang political system. A great power must demonstrate its strength through economy, technology, and ritual. The foreign envoys were deeply shaken. The fervor and fanatical respect in the air were unlike anything they had ever experienced in their own lands. The atmosphere was intoxicating, compelling one to offer everything to the emperor. Rise, subjects. I spoke calmly, my face obscured by my jade crown, my dragon robe radiating authority. Thank you, Emperor. The officials rose in perfect unison. The solemnity left the envoys nervous, hesitant to present their tributes or speak. The Yanhuang Empire's recent momentum intimidated anyone standing before me. Guoda, sensing their fear, stepped forward, knelt, and said, Emperor, I have a report. Granted, I waved my hand. Reporting to the Emperor, while you were on your personal campaign, our domestic defenses were thin. Only the support of the 100 Tribes duchies kept the surrounding threats at bay. Guoda bowed respectfully. With your triumphant return, envoys from these duchies have arrived to offer tribute and pledge their loyalty. I hope you will grant them an audience. Very well. My tone softened with a smile. I remember the kindness of the 100 Tribes. Which envoys are present? Step forward so I may acknowledge you. Guida signaled the alien envoys. Dozens of envoys hurried to the center of the hall, kneeling in unison. Envoys of the vassal states greet the great Emperor Su. Long live the Emperor. Declaring themselves vassals of Yanhuang, they pledged their loyalty. I smiled rise. Without your support, I could not have resisted the Dark Knight Alliance. After they stood, I exchanged pleasantries, and the envoys presented their gifts. They brought gold coins, supplies, laborers, energy ores, and monster crystal cores. The envoys delivered congratulatory messages and letters from their respective monarchs, seeking permanent alliances and mutual prosperity with the Yanhuang Empire. The collapse of the 100 Tribes Alliance had left these duchies anxious. Having tasted the benefits of cooperating with Yanhuang, they were desperate to maintain the connection. To please me, they offered everything from lifelong vassalage to the marriage of their monarch's daughters. I politely declined, having no interest in the alien princesses. To reassure them, I promised equivalent return gifts and added, "Do not worry. I will soon host a new alliance ceremony. You are all welcome to attend." "We shall certainly attend. We would not miss such a grand event." The envoys were overjoyed, relieved that the Yanhuang Empire had not abandoned them. Their cooperation over the past months had led to rapid growth for their respective duchies. I was happy to court these allies. Though individually weak, they provided necessary political backing against the Dark Knight Alliance. It was a strategic necessity. The alien duchies, in turn, valued the convenience, aid, and friendly treatment provided by the powerful Yanhuang Empire. After the audience, the envoys retreated to the sides. Following routine reports from his ministers, I scanned the hall. I have one more announcement to make. The court fell into a tense, expectant silence. Gong Chuyu, make the announcement, I commanded. Gong Chuyu stepped forward, causing a stir among the officials. Is that not the last king of the human alliance? Why is he here? Likely to seek a new alliance, as Suyu is also human, others whispered. The alien envoys watched with bated breath. Gong Chuyu spoke loudly. Thanks to the Emperor's mercy, the human alliance repelled the Dark Knight Alliance, sparing millions from the ravages of war. Yet, of the dozens of human kingdoms, only the Manhwa Duchy remains. The alliance exists in name only. In these chaotic times, it is impossible for me to sustain the remaining populace alone while surrounded by predators. As leader of the human alliance, I hereby declare the alliance officially dissolved. And as king of Manhwa, I declare, the Manhwa Duchy is dissolved. All subjects, soldiers, and territories are hereby ceded to the Yanhuang Empire. The court erupted in shock. The human alliance is merging into Yanhuang. Why would King Gong give up his power when he could have rebuilt? He is handing it all over. Perhaps he realizes he cannot protect them alone and believes it better to strengthen Yanhuang for the sake of the race. The envoys were stunned. The alliance still held significant resources and population. To abandon such power to join Yanhuang seemed incomprehensible to them. While the envoys were baffled, the Yanhuang officials were overjoyed. King Gong is a man of great righteousness. With this, the humans of the eastern continent are unified under one emperor. The officials looked at Gong Chuyu with newfound respect. They admired his willingness to relinquish power, unaware that this had been my plan all along. From the moment I launched my dual-front war, my goal was to absorb the resources and populations of both the human alliance and the Ogre Empire. For Yanhuang to grow, such strategic maneuvers were necessary. There is no room for sentiment in statecraft. I had achieved my first goal. The political landscape of the eastern continent was now defined by the struggle between the Dark Knight Alliance and the Yanhuang Empire. The standoff reminded me of the geopolitical rivalries from my past life. All other nations were now forced to choose sides or remain in cautious observation. The victor between the two giants would ultimately control the resources of the entire eastern continent. Excellent. I shall ensure peace for all humans, I declared. Gong Chuyu is granted a second-rank civil post, his son, Yi Tianxing, a third-rank military post. Chen Kun, Gong Chuyu, and Yi Tianxing are to assist Marquis Wu Zhuge in integrating the new populace. Handle this swiftly and with care, I added. Do not tarnish our reputation for benevolence. We shall not fail you. The three bowed deeply. This was the first duty for the father and son as Yanhuang subjects, having shed their royal titles. All humans in the East were now one family under Yanhuang. I utilized the pair specifically for their influence and reputation. They were the perfect bridge to help the refugees accept their new identity as Yanhuang citizens. After dismissing them, I continued. While I campaigned against the alliance, General Baichi conquered the Ogre Empire with 1,000,000 troops, expanding our borders. This is a monumental achievement. I shall reward him handsomely. I laughed. The court was stunned. The officials were envious, and the envoys were terrified. They knew Baichi was already a second-rank official. To reward him further for such a massive conquest, without fearing his power, was unheard of. A ruthless emperor would have executed such a powerful general, and a weak one would have stripped him of his command. Yet I remained steadfast in my intent to reward Baichi, and not a single official dared to object. This is unwise. Why don't the ministers advise him? 100 tribes envoy whispered to Chen Kun, eyes filled with anxiety. Aren't they afraid General Bai will grow arrogant and disregard the emperor? Other envoys leaned in, their expressions mirroring this concern. They wondered why Emperor Su couldn't see the danger. Having pledged loyalty, they needed the Yanhuang Empire to remain stable and powerful to secure their own future. Chen Kun glanced at the crowd, then up at the emperor. I was busy reciting Baichi's military achievements, ignoring the unrest below. Reassured, Chen Kun whispered, "You are overthinking. Tell me, is our emperor not a man of grand vision?" Of course. His ambition is rare in 10,000 years. The poem from Yixianshan Canyon is famous across the eastern continent. Even his enemies admire it. I have served many emperors, but few possess the sheer presence of Emperor Su. The envoys agreed. My ambition was undeniable. Chen Kun smiled. Is he not wise and domineering? They hesitated, then nodded solemnly. He is. I had annihilated the Ogre Empire, fought on 2 fronts, and crushed the anti-Suyu alliance, elevating Yanhuang to a top-tier power. From a banished noble to a legend, my rise was universally respected. My deeds had become epic legends across the eastern continent. The human race, once ranked outside the top 300, now stood 6th among the myriad races. All thanks to Suyu, Chen Kun noted. Is he not strong? He is, they agreed. The battle at Qingjian City proved my might, though I rarely fought personally. I had executed a legendary peak martial artist, suppressing the great elder so thoroughly he couldn't even self-destruct. That day, the Golden Dragon Phantom had shaken the 4 Directions continent. Exactly, Chen Kun laughed. With such a wise, strong, and ambitious emperor, do you think he would leave himself vulnerable to future threats? The envoys paused, deep in thought. Then why, one asked, does he reward Baichi so lavishly despite his immense power? The emperor's heart is unfathomable. Just trust him. Chen Kun offered no further explanation. The emperor's actions, though seemingly strange, always held deep, hidden meaning. They didn't know that as a general from the myriad realms, Baichi was incapable of betrayal. I used Baichi as an example. Serve the empire, and you will be rewarded without suspicion. I wanted to show that talent would be met with everything one desired. Only a leader with such magnanimity could truly rule the world. I finished reciting the military honors, leaving the envoys stunned by my memory and Baichi's achievements. It was clear that Baichi held a special place in the emperor's heart. Baichi, I called. I am here. Baichi stepped forward and knelt, armor clanking. He bowed his head. This was the only man he served. Your service is immeasurable, I praised. Ask for anything, and it is yours. This promise reflected my deep trust and affection. Only God of War Su Long had ever received such an honor. The officials whispered, envious of Baichi's status. A new star was rising in the Yanhuang military. Officials with marriageable daughters saw an opportunity. Baichi was unmarried, a perfect match. They prepared to act, but Baichi spoke. I thank the emperor, but serving is my duty. I dare not ask for more. Is it fear or lack of desire? I feigned annoyance. Speak. Do not be coy. The crowd rolled their eyes, jealous of the favor. Then, I request the emperor's calligraphy to hang in my study as a reminder. Baichi frowned, struggling to think of a request. He was a born soldier, devoid of personal greed. Power, wealth, and status meant nothing to him. He lived only for war and his emperor. The officials sighed in frustration at his lack of ambition. The envoys watched, feeling complex emotions. They envied both the emperor's generosity and the general's absolute loyalty. "You are too rigid." I laughed. "No money, no power, no beauties. I desire no worldly goods, only to master the art of war and fulfill the emperor's vision." Bai Qi kowtowed respectfully. "If you wish to lead humanity to the peak, I will pave the way. If you wish to conquer the world, I will be your blade." I smiled at Bai Qi, amused yet frustrated by his stubborn refusal of rewards despite his military brilliance. "If I don't reward you, how can I show the world my thirst for talent? I insist on this reward." I slammed my hand on the throne. The officials and foreign envoys were stunned. They were bewildered by this dynamic. Usually, emperors sought to curb powerful ministers, not force gifts upon them. In the Yanwang Empire, everything was reversed. Bai Qi, inwardly distressed, resolved to refuse any reward, even at the risk of imperial wrath. He didn't want to drain the treasury or occupy a position that might block younger talents from rising. He genuinely wanted to conserve resources for my sake. As Bai Qi worried about the emperor's burden, I paced, muttering about what to bestow. I needed a reward that was both awe-inspiring and deeply validating for a loyal subject. Land was out of the question, and Bai Qi was already a second-rank official. A promotion to first rank would leave no room for future merit. Only Zhuge Liang and Su Long held first-rank status, serving as the empire's pillars. I rarely deployed them, keeping them as my ultimate trump cards for dire situations. With that in mind, I made my decision. I decree, confer upon Bai Qi the title of Lord Wuan, first-rank military official. Grant him 30 million gold coins, 100 strings of jewels, and 1,000 bolts of fine cloth. Furthermore, build statues of myself and Lord Wuan in the old ogre capital, side by side. Silence fell over the hall. Everyone was struck dumb by the final decree. The words echoed like thunder. Lord Wuan, standing side by side with the emperor. It was an unprecedented honor, previously reserved only for the god of war Su Long. Everyone realized I was creating a new legend. When they looked at Bai Qi, they were shocked. The 40-year-old warrior was weeping openly, tears splashing onto the floor. Bai Qi was deeply moved by my insistence. He could feel the emperor's trust and care, and for the first time, he did not refuse the honor. The legendary realm warrior knelt, sobbing uncontrollably. To serve such a lord was the greatest fortune of a subject. "My emperor, I shall serve Yin Huang and the human race until my death. I will not fail the name of Wuan." Bai Qi's voice trembled with absolute, unwavering loyalty. I smiled as a system notification appeared. Ding! Congratulations. Your General Bai Qi's loyalty has reached its limit, triggering the passive talent, Lord Wuan. Lord Wuan, a passive talent, bestows a 10% increase to all stats, talents, skills, and intellect. Warning: this talent vanishes if the title is revoked. A 10% boost to a legendary realm general was immense, especially since further breakthroughs were unknown. It was a practical and powerful enhancement. Rise, Lord Wuan. Do not disappoint me. Bai Qi stood, composed. The officials looked on, acknowledging the birth of a new war god. They whispered that this honor would surely spark a massive wave of recruitment across the empire. I turned to the Minister of War. "Huang Zhongyi, is the 100,000-strong elite force ready?" Huang Zhongyi knelt, reporting to the emperor. "The remaining 2 million human alliance soldiers have been stationed in the Great Demon Prefecture, and 100,000 elites are ready at the capital." I had renamed the Ogre territory the Great Demon Prefecture, making it the Empire's first major administrative region. "Good. Where's Lu Bu?" Lu Bu stepped forward, drawing the attention of the court. A recent addition to the guard, he had performed brilliantly in the Ogre campaign, rumored to be at the legendary peak. "Lu Fengxian, your command and martial prowess are unmatched. You deserve a reward. I establish a new army, the Bingzhou Wolf Cavalry. 100,000 men under your command, serving directly under me alongside the Imperial Guard." "I thank the Emperor for this promotion," Lu Bu exclaimed, overjoyed. Being granted a direct command was a supreme honor. The court realized the Emperor's plan. By rewarding 2 generals in one day, He was stoking the competitive spirit of every warrior in the nation. Do not celebrate yet. You have 3 months to train them before you depart on a campaign. Are you certain of victory? The court was stunned. A new campaign so soon? I remained cryptic about the target. Lubu bowed deeply. Wherever the emperor's sword points, the wolf cavalry shall trample. Good. Gwada read the plea for help from the Orc Empire. Gwada stepped forward and read the document. Prince Andrew had ascended as the new beast monarch, but Prince Cecil had rebelled. The two were locked in a brutal civil war, splitting the Orc Empire in half. Desperate to save his nation's strength, Andrew had reached out to the Yanhuang Empire for aid. The court finally understood the target of the new campaign. I asked for their opinions. One official suggested supporting Andrew to gain an ally against the Dark Knight Alliance. Others disagreed. A military official argued against it, fearing the orcs' deep-seated hatred for humans would lead to betrayal. They feared that saving the Orc Empire would only create a stronger enemy if they allied with the Dark Knight Alliance later. Another suggested waiting to see which side emerged as the victor before intervening. The debate continued among the officials. The foreign envoys watched intently, hoping to learn from my strategic decision-making. They hoped to bring these lessons back to their own nations to strengthen their own people. Only lower-ranking officials spoke. The high-ranking ministers remained silent. An envoy whispered to Chen Kun, asking why he didn't offer his opinion to the emperor. Chen Kun replied calmly that the emperor had already made up his mind, and the matter of supporting the Orc Empire was trivial to the Yanhuang Empire. High-ranking officials rarely spoke because they knew I was a decisive ruler. They only intervened if I erred. Otherwise, they let me lead, as I sought their input only to catch potential oversights. This unique governance allowed me to evolve from a young master into a wise emperor. My advisors acted as a safety net, correcting my mistakes and offering strategic alternatives. With such legendary figures guiding me, my perspective and judgment grew, minimizing my errors. When the discussion ceased, I spoke. Good, I ordered. Send word to the northern frontier. Su Long as commander, Lu Bu as deputy. In 3 months, march to support the new beast monarch, Andrew, and eliminate the usurper Cecil. Since Andrew's forces were the primary combatants, no additional strategists were needed. The veteran god of war Su Long was sufficient. The ministers agreed, and the Ministry of War and Ministry of Revenue began coordinating the logistics. The envoys were bewildered, finding the Yanhuang Empire's unique political process impossible to replicate. After settling minor matters, the attendant called for any further business. Gwada and Chen Kun stepped forward together, bowing respectfully. Dozens of civil officials followed suit, creating a rare scene of collective petitioning. I was taken aback, feeling puzzled. I wondered what issue was so critical that they would risk my potential disapproval by acting in unison. I felt intrigued. I was particularly surprised that the pragmatic and usually quiet Chen Kun was leading the charge. The envoys were stunned. It looked like a forced petition, a rare challenge to the emperor's authority. They wondered what could possibly embolden the ministers to act this way. Speak, I said calmly. Gwada glanced at the officials, then at the stoic emperor, and nudged Chen Kun to take the lead. Gwada lacked the nerve for this, and the idea had been Chen Kun's. Chen Kun bowed and began. The empire is prosperous, but... Get to the point, I interrupted with a smile. Chen Kun coughed and stated, with God of War Su at the frontier, we urge you to take Princess Manhwa of the Manhwa Duchy as your concubine. The entire court, including me, was shocked that they had staged this for a marriage proposal. I hesitated. I felt no need for a mere vase in my harem. My current wives were already exceptional. I admired Princess Manhwa, but felt no desire to possess her. The envoys knew of the princess, who resided in the capital and was considered a potential new fairy of the city. Her heroic deeds on the Human Alliance front had earned her widespread admiration. I had a friendly rapport with her, but it wasn't romantic. She was a delicate yet resilient woman. I do not wish to force anyone, I sighed. Chen Kun smiled, revealing he had already consulted Gong Chuyu, and the princess herself did not object. I looked at Gong Chuyu, who nodded in confirmation. I knew Gong Chuyu was a devoted father who would never force his daughter into an unwanted marriage. He would rather offend the emperor than hurt his child. Chen Kun added, furthermore, This union would greatly benefit the empire. How so? I asked. The human alliance is dissolved, and the Yanhuang Empire has unified the eastern continent, but integrating millions of new citizens risks friction. I am aware, I nodded. I knew the tension between the original Yanhuang subjects and the newcomers was a powder keg. With over 100 million people involved, any conflict could be disastrous. I had already settled the refugees in the Great Demon Prefecture. Chen Kun explained. Marrying the princess would signal to these millions that you value them, easing their anxiety. Chen Kun smiled. The refugees still felt a lingering loyalty to the old leadership. The princess was their bridge. This marriage would reassure the populace and facilitate the success of future integration policies. I understood the logic. Still, marrying his wife's friend was complicated. I need to think about this, I said with a bitter smile. I feared disrupting the peace of my harem. For the sake of the people, please accept. Chen Kun and the officials bowed deeply in unison. They insisted with such gravity that it seemed the nation's stability hinged on this marriage. I realized that as emperor, even my personal life was tied to the state. The envoys were baffled. Most rulers would gladly accept such a gift. Yet here, the ministers were practically forcing a beauty upon a hesitant emperor. I shook my head. I couldn't keep acting coy when the state's stability was at stake. I agree. Would handle the arrangements. Announce to the world that I shall take Princess Manhwa as a concubine. I waved my hand. If it ensured the people's peace and the nation's stability, I would do it without hesitation. I'll keep Princess Mingzhu in the harem as a decorative vase, I declared. The officials cheered my magnanimity. I shook my head, warning them, don't play these games again. I've been too lenient with you all. Emperors despise defiance. Guoda broke into a cold sweat. Chen Kun offered a bitter smile, and the officials retreated. Dismissed, the attendant's shrill voice echoed, and the officials knelt, chanting, "Long live the emperor." I departed the Golden Throne Hall, followed by the dispersing officials. Soon, Bai Qi, Lu Bu, and Gong Chuyu were swarmed by officials offering congratulations. One was the new Yanhuang god of war, one a rising star, and the third was the future father-in-law of the emperor. These three were destined to be the most sought-after figures in the imperial capital. I, meanwhile, lingered in the imperial garden, avoiding the cunning palace. I was dreading explaining my decision to marry Princess Mingzhu to my empresses. Sigh. I lamented, cursing the meddlesome officials. It was winter, flowers had withered, and cold winds blew. To please the emperor, the Jinui had imported drunken sleep flowers from snowy mountains. These rare flowers bloomed only in deep winter, swaying gracefully in the wind. Their fragrance had a mild, intoxicating effect, though it was not poisonous. Attendants carefully served tea at a stone table, where an incense burner warded off the chill. My guards, Wang Zhe, Su Ba, and Su Jiu, were off drinking in the city. I envied their carefree, boisterous lives. But I was the emperor. I had to maintain the cold, lonely majesty of supreme power. Lost in thought, I realized I was still a mortal with human desires, despite my facade. As I sipped tea, a maid announced, "Empress Huine arrives." A phoenix sedan appeared, and Miss Huine stepped out. She wore a pale pink gown, her waist cinched by a cloud belt. A coral hairpin adorned her hair, highlighting her stunning, regal features. Her beauty was captivating, far more alluring than any young girl, embodying the ideal woman. Sigh. I sighed. She clearly knew about Princess Mingzhu. Miss Huine bowed gracefully. "Greetings, husband. It's so cold. Why aren't you dressed warmer?" I smiled warmly and draped my cloak over her shoulders. She looked at me with tender eyes and gestured for the maids to leave. The maids bowed and retreated. "It's noon, and I waited at Cunning Palace, so I came to find you." Her voice held a hint of resentment. "My fault. I was lost in thought and forgot the time." I laughed, taking her hand. "Let's go to Cunning Palace." She asked softly, "Husband, were you lost in thought because of Princess Mingzhu?" I froze. She was jealous. There was no escaping this. As I prepared to explain, she sighed. "I understand your dilemma. Marrying her stabilizes the people. I don't blame you. I would have suggested it myself. Just don't neglect her once she enters the harem." She smiled sweetly. "Let's go eat." I was stunned. My elaborate explanation was unnecessary. I walked with her, stunned. When she asked if she could manage future concubine selections, I laughed awkwardly. Trust me, I'm not a lecher. I just want to help you, like Su Huimi does. She smiled back, warming my heart. They walked hand in hand through the garden as light snow began to fall. At Cunning Palace, Ling Aner, Shangwan Waner, military advisor Nian, and Princess Mingzhu were dining together like a normal family. Only Su Huimi was absent, obsessed with training female soldiers with Hua Mulan. I sipped tea, plotting to confine her to the palace so she wouldn't neglect me. Perhaps getting her pregnant would keep her from the drill grounds. I smirked, causing the ladies to blush and scold me playfully. Snow covered the eastern continent. Most nations hibernated, save for those active in winter. The continent was unusually peaceful, a sleeping beauty that defied expectations of total war. Both the Dark Knight Alliance and the Yanhuang Empire remained quiet. Winter warfare was too difficult for most. Yet, everyone knew a violent storm would follow the thaw. Scholars predicted this would be the last peaceful winter before the inevitable race war. Then, news broke. Yanhuang Empire recognizes Andrew's beast monarch regime and will send troops to assist him in the Orc Empire. I led the army myself, with the new Yanhuang Lu Bu as deputy, a terrifying force. With 2 legendary realm experts involved, Prince Cecil was doomed, and other monarchs wailed in despair. I had just conquered the Human Alliance and Ogre Empire. Now I wanted the Orc Empire? Couldn't I just rest in my harem? The Yanhuang Empire refused to let anyone have a peaceful winter. I was clearly looking for trouble. Monarchs across the continent were forced to abandon their comforts to hold emergency councils. The Dark Knight Monarch issued urgent military orders in response. The Night Monarch decided to support Prince Cecil against me, viewing me as a calculating rival who always prioritizes my own interests and those of the Yanhuang Empire. Determined to make me suffer and recover from previous losses, the Night Monarch committed to this intervention. He ordered 3 million elite troops to support Prince Cecil, refusing to sit idle while the enemy made their move, despite the harsh winter conditions. News spread quickly. The Night Alliance has deployed 3 million troops to aid Prince Cecil. Prince Cecil was ecstatic, as this force shifted the advantage in his favor against Andrew, especially since Yanhuang's northern frontier force was under 1 million. Observers were stunned by the speed of the Night Alliance's mobilization. Across the eastern continent, all eyes turned toward the Orc Empire. What was thought to be a domestic power struggle had transformed into a new battlefield between the Night Alliance and the Yanhuang Empire. Scholars began analyzing the situation. Some argued the Orc Empire was following the Ogre Empire's path, destined to be a victim of the 2 major powers regardless of who became the new beast monarch. Others suspected I had ulterior motives for helping a historical enemy, sensing a deeper conspiracy. Regardless of public speculation, Yanhuang's northern frontier had already committed its forces. While the world focused on the Orc Empire, I began planning a new direction for the Yanhuang Empire. In the Imperial study on November 1st, I received a system notification. Congratulations, host. You have gained 4.8 million public support energy this month. The increase indicated that Marquis Wu Zhuge's policies were effectively winning over the refugees. I smiled and mentally commanded, System, open the Territory Attribute panel. It was time to review my status to determine my next strategy. Territory, Yanhuang Empire. Territory, 7 prefectures, Qingjian City, Great Demon Prefecture. Ruler, I. Level, 3. Requirement, 10 million public support energy. Population, 48,067,055. Total empire, 160 million. Military, 5,000 Jinyui, 100,000 traversing camp, 100,000 Huban army, 100,000 Zhuge crossbow legion, 1 million Qin army, 100,000 White Horse Yitzhong, 200,000 women's army, 100,000 Bingzhou wolf cavalry. Public support, 100. Status, worship. Energy, 33.9 million. Monthly income, 4.8 million. Buildings, Lord's Altar, Tier 3 Barracks, System Blacksmith Shop, Energy Blender, Wenyuan Pavilion, Tier 3 Emperor Statue. I was shocked by the sheer amount of accumulated public support energy. This surplus resulted from victories on the human front, the conquest of the Ogre Empire, and months of steady accumulation. Through careful saving, my energy reserves had reached a new peak. I pondered whether to upgrade my territory or unlock the tech tree to advance Yanhuang's development. Although I hadn't unified the eastern continent, the human race was already under my banner. With 160 million people, I could realistically field only a few million soldiers before the economy and agriculture collapsed. Even with my current energy, training millions to the Baishui realm would take decades. Relying solely on high-level warriors to conquer a continent of billions was inefficient and would cause heavy losses. I refused to pursue that path unless absolutely necessary. This was why I saved energy for the tech tree. I knew that in this high martial world, modern technology like nuclear weapons could surpass the power of legendary realm experts. Technology would drastically reduce the time needed to train effective soldiers. Ordinary, well-trained troops could fight effectively with modern weaponry. I also recalled my neglected Demon Hound Special Legion, currently stored in the demon space. Seeing them reminded me of the mysterious Mr. Baiyan. I realized that Mr. Baiyan, another system owner, was threatened by unknown entities, a fate I might eventually share. I suspected I would eventually face the same dilemmas as Mr. Baiyan. Weighing my options, I decided to prioritize the tech tree over territory upgrades or troop cultivation to secure my future. System, open the tech tree. I commanded firmly. The screen flickered, revealing the tech tree's interface with its dormant, swaying leaves. Though many technologies were tempting, they remained locked. I stared at the tree, lost in thought. With over 30 million energy, I could significantly outpace the other races of the eastern continent. I imagined my soldiers wielding Gatling guns, mowing down alien forces, a thrilling prospect. It was the excitement of a modern man. While other races remained stuck in feudal or slave societies, focused on basic survival and simple pleasures, Yanhuang would leap ahead. My citizens would enjoy modern comforts and digital entertainment, a total technological crushing of my enemies. Technology would revolutionize military, economic, agricultural, and social sectors. I was eager to reclaim the forgotten tools of my past life. I exhaled, my eyes burning with resolve. I felt this would be a revolution, a collision between high martial arts and modern technology that would shock the eastern continent. I focused my attention on the tech tree. Divided into military and civil categories, even the cheapest projects cost millions of energy. Success would grant me full theoretical knowledge and design blueprints. The tree spanned from the Steam Age to the Information Age and beyond, though higher tiers were currently restricted. I had hoped to skip the Steam Age and jump straight to the Electrical Age. However, with 30 million energy, I realized that even unlocking the core technologies of the Steam Age would be challenging. I shook my head with a wry smile. System, open all technology leaves for the Steam Age. Swish. The system screen zoomed in on the lower branches of the tech tree, revealing several dim, unlit leaves. These included principles and design of steam engines, steam trains, steamships, and steam looms. Steam technology relies entirely on the steam engine, the catalyst for the Industrial Revolution in my past life. A steam engine is a reciprocating power machine that converts steam energy into mechanical work. Its process involves burning fuel to boil water, creating pressurized steam, and using that pressure to drive a piston. Energy converts from chemical, fuel, to thermal, boiling, then to mechanical, steam pressure, to drive the machine. In my past life, these engines primarily consumed coal. However, the Four Directions continent, specifically the Eastern continent, uses different raw materials. Here, energy ores and monster crystal cores are abundant. Skilled blacksmiths and alchemists extract energy from them to create magical items. Examples include pills, enchanted weapons, armor, carriages, and scrolls. I cannot build a steam engine alone. It requires a specific level of societal development and fuel infrastructure. The Yanhuang Empire currently lacks the capacity to manufacture the necessary precision parts and gaskets. The tech tree solves this by providing optimized designs tailored to the world's unique rules once the leaf is unlocked. These designs, when placed in the virtual blacksmith shop, generate detailed assembly instructions and manufacturing methods for every component. First, I must unlock theoretical research on fusion and enhancement of technological equipment with internal chi, true qi immortal qi, and integration and improvement of livelihood technology with internal qi true qi immortal qi life forms. These two leaves are prerequisites, allowing the steam engine to burn energy ores or monster crystal cores to generate mechanical force. If necessary, a powerful martial artist could even use their own internal force to power the engine. I reviewed the process on the tech tree. I checked the public support energy costs for the 3 required leaves. Theoretical research on fusion. Costs 10 million public support energy. Integration and improvement of livelihood technology. Costs 10 million public support energy. Principles and design of steam engines. Costs 10 million public support energy. The total cost is 30 million, nearly my entire savings. While expensive, these are core, entry-level technologies compared to advanced concepts like laser theory. Sighing at my balance, I decided to proceed. A steam engine would revolutionize the Yanhuang Empire. I reminded myself that while the empire is militarily strong, it must improve in all aspects to be truly powerful. Technology is my greatest tool. Determined to bring the industrial age to Yanhuang, I commanded the system to unlock the 3 leaves. I took a breath and confirmed the order. The system verified my 33.9 million public support energy and began the process. My balance plummeted, leaving only 3.9 million remaining. Milky white energy filaments flowed from the screen, filling the leaves until they glowed with light. The energy was gentle and non-blinding. 3 exquisite design blueprints materialized on my desk, condensed from the energy. I touched the soft, high-quality material, fully aware of their immense value. Having spent 30 million points, I opened the virtual blacksmith shop. I placed the 3 blueprints onto the altar in the center of the shop. The shop absorbed the blueprints, instantly generating detailed parts lists, designs, and theoretical data. I now possessed all the technical information needed to build the steam engine. Success. Now, it was time for construction. I called out for my guards. Jinui and Imperial guards rushed into the study, kneeling respectfully. I ordered them to have Chun-kun assemble the best alchemists, blacksmiths, and craftsmen from the Ministry of Works. They acknowledged the order. The guards were surprised that such an urgent summons was merely for craftsmen. Regardless, they obeyed instantly, as my word is absolute law in the Empire. Chun-kun immediately dropped his tasks and coordinated with the Minister of Works to gather the experts at the Imperial study. Chun-kun reported that 72 alchemists and 36 craftsmen were ready. I emerged from the study, and the group bowed deeply. I waved for them to rise. Chun-kun introduced the group, which included sturdy blacksmiths and elderly, experienced alchemists. Since I unified the Eastern continent, my pool of skilled craftsmen had grown significantly. The Ministry of Works handles infrastructure and agriculture, while private artisans manage other goods. The craftsmen bowed again. Some were nervous, wondering why the Emperor had summoned them. I smiled and asked if they were confident in building an object if provided with detailed blueprints and theory. Though my phrasing was modern, the craftsmen understood perfectly. Realizing they were only needed for their professional expertise, they felt relieved. An elderly craftsman stepped forward, bowing and stating they could build anything with detailed sketches. This was the confidence of a true master artisan. Their craftsmanship was renowned for its precision. I laughed, told them to follow me to the Ministry of Works, and dismissed Chun-kun to his own duties. Chun-kun bowed and withdrew, while I led the artisans to the ministry. En route, I communicated with the system to retrieve blueprints and theoretical data for steam engines. Once a tech tree branch is unlocked, I can extract detailed information from the system's blacksmith shop. The Ministry of Works. The Emperor's arrival threw the ministry into a panic. The minister and his deputy hurried out to welcome him. Officials knelt, chanting, "Long live the Emperor." I led them to the workshop and handed the steam engine blueprints to the craftsmen and alchemists. "Can you build this?" I asked, sipping tea. The Empire's top experts gathered to examine the designs. They marveled at the craftsmanship, calling it divine and praising my intellect. "What is an axis? Why are these lines drawn this way? It's like reading heavenly scriptures," one elder exclaimed. "Quiet. It would be strange if you could understand the Emperor's work," another whispered. Despite their confusion over the technical diagrams, their professional instincts kicked in. They quickly grasped the complexity and precision of the steam engine's design. I chuckled and cleared my throat to silence them. "Listen up," I said. The craftsman knelt again. "Can you build it? The construction is possible, but we don't understand some of the notations, which may affect the result," a craftsman admitted shamefully. True craftsmanship requires more than just skill. It demands physics and mathematics. Experience alone is insufficient for such advanced work. Although I had promoted basic education in modern subjects, it was only a foundation. My reforms were merely an introduction to spark new ways of thinking. The system's blueprints required professional knowledge far beyond the current curriculum. I smiled, having anticipated this. "Wang Zhe," I commanded. Wang Zhe, Su Ba, and Su Jiu brought over a massive pile of scrolls and books. "This is a steam engine. You need to master these subjects to build it." I gestured to the mountain of books. "You are the pillars of the empire. Study these until you understand them, then begin." The craftsman peeked at the titles. Introduction to Inorganic Chemistry, Principles of Organic and Biochemistry, Mathematics and Physics, Calculus, Physics Formulas, Classical Mechanics, Thermodynamics. These were the advanced versions of the subjects I had introduced. These were high school-level texts from the system, far beyond the current empire's knowledge. Unaware of the difficulty, the craftsmen pledged their obedience. I laughed. I wanted to build a foundation for future tech and, admittedly, found the idea of these experts struggling with high school homework amusing. This concerns the rise of the human race. The burden on your shoulders is heavy. Knowledge is power. One day, the world will cheer for your creations, and your names will be recorded in history. Bai Qi is a hero for his sword. You will be heroes for this. I pointed to my head. The craftsmen trembled with excitement. Could they, mere craftsmen, truly become heroes on par with General Bai Qi? Was this possible because of these blueprints? Bai Qi and Su Long were the empire's two gods. To be mentioned alongside them was unthinkable. A craftsman asked with a trembling voice. "Emperor, can we truly become heroes?" "How dare you question the emperor?" Wang Zhe barked. Wang Zhe's strength had surged thanks to my pills and training. The craftsmen cowered, but their eyes remained fixed on me. "Of course," I replied. "Bai Qi holds the blade, but you decide how sharp it is." The craftsmen wept openly, moved by my recognition. They had always been the silent force behind the army. They forged the weapons and armor, yet remained unknown. My words struck them like a thunderbolt. They realized they could prove their worth by determining the lethality of the soldiers' weapons. They could ensure the soldiers' armor was impenetrable. "Craftsmen can be gods too," I said. "I have a god of war, but I lack a god of crafts." I left, leaving the craftsmen in a daze. The title God of Crafts echoed in their hearts. Every craftsman yearned for their work to be recognized and immortalized. They stood frozen, their eyes burning with newfound ambition. A fire had been ignited, a desire for prestige that would spread throughout the ministry and the empire. Soon, the world would witness the terrifying power of Yanhuang technology. The rumor of the God of Crafts spread like wildfire. Craftsmen and alchemists from across the empire flocked to the ministry, begging to serve, even without pay, just for a chance at the title. This is the highest honor recognized by the emperor himself, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Under my orders, the Minister of Works immediately began recruiting the nation's finest craftsmen. I aim to transform the Ministry of Works into an institution akin to the Chinese Academy of Sciences from my past life, establishing a Yanhuang Academy to lead all future technological research. The current Ministry of Works serves as the prototype for this future academy. Beyond recruitment, I tasked Wang Zhe with delivering extensive study materials, ranging from middle school science to university-level professional knowledge, for the minister to distribute. Since the craftsmen already possessed foundations in mathematics and physics, they were talented enough to learn these new concepts without much difficulty. The minister treated these materials as treasures, ordering the city guards to guard them strictly and forbidding any external dissemination. I merely smiled. These concepts would soon be popularized nationwide, requiring the ministry to tackle even more advanced systems. Within a month, the sleep-deprived craftsman presented me with the first steam engine. The test was a success. The engine could burn energy or monster crystal cores for mechanical power, and featured a special port for martial artists to inject internal chi or gang chi to generate kinetic energy. A single Ninghan realm martial artist could power the engine for a month, though the current storage capacity was limited to the total internal force of a Ninghan realm practitioner. Further optimization is needed to allow higher-level martial artists to contribute power without risking an explosion. Fortunately, the system provided optimization guidelines, ensuring the craftsmen stayed on the right track and maintaining their high research morale. Delighted, I ordered the ministry to establish assembly lines for mass production. I awarded the first batch of craftsmen and alchemists 5th-rank official titles, hundreds of thousands in gold, and issued a nationwide commendation. The honor was so overwhelming that some elderly craftsmen fainted from excitement, requiring me to use a little Zazai, immortal pill, to revive them. Such minor incidents did not dampen the craftsmen's enthusiasm. Aiming for even greater honors, the craftsmen worked feverishly, devouring new knowledge like sponges. Their collaborative efforts led to the invention of items I hadn't even proposed. These included steam trains, steamships, and steam-powered looms. To my delight, these inventions automatically unlocked corresponding leaves on my tech tree, granting me new blueprints and optimization methods for free. This saved me significant public support energy. As the Yanwang Empire celebrated these technological leaps, the Dark Knight Alliance remained oblivious. The Dark Knight Alliance was still focused entirely on the conflict between the two beast monarchs in the Orc Empire. Thanks to Jinui intelligence blockades, the Dark Knight monarch remained ignorant of my internal developments. Hearing rumors of a steam engine, the monarch dismissed it as a trivial toy, mocking me for wasting time with craftsmen. He believed my plans would fail as the Orc Empire's stalemate continued. The Dark Knight court was filled with sarcasm and disdain toward me. Though the Dark Knight monarch felt I was up to something, his lack of understanding forced him to focus on pressuring the Orc Empire. Returning from court, the Dark Knight monarch sat in his sedan, rubbing his temples in frustration. The endless political squabbles between ministers and the 100 tribes made his head ache. Managing a vast alliance required more than just raw power. It demanded sophisticated political maneuvering. He begrudgingly admitted that I was superior in maintaining the initiative and extracting benefits from the 100 Tribes Alliance. Even though the alliance eventually dissolved, I had not suffered any losses. This realization left the Dark Knight monarch deeply unhappy. When asked where to go, he sighed and chose the Imperial study instead of the Empress's quarters. The situation was too critical for indulgence. He needed to strategize to maintain his advantage in the Orc Empire. He clenched his fists, eyes flashing with cold intent, determined not to be defeated by me again. He arrived at the Imperial study shortly after. Dismissing his attendants, he dove into the backlog of memorials and secret reports. The attendants waited in the courtyard. Since his defeat by me, the monarch had become exceptionally diligent, trying to learn from his rival. He was a respectable ruler for his people, but he had chosen the wrong opponent. Inside the study, as the monarch worked, the void behind him rippled, and black mist coalesced into a vague, ominous shadow. The shadow stood silently behind him. The monarch remained unaware until he rose to call his attendants an hour later. "Long time no see, Appleton." A cold, raspy voice spoke in broken Dark Knight language from behind him. The monarch, a legendary peak expert, was shocked that someone could approach him so silently. "Who are you?" he shouted, leaping back. Upon seeing the shadow, the monarch froze, his face pale with deep-seated fear. Trembling uncontrollably, he stood helpless as the voice chuckled. "What? Have you forgotten your master after 20 years?" The shadow flickered, radiating a pure, chilling malice that made the air tremble. Had I been there, I would have recognized the source of this dark aura. "And master," the monarch broke into a cold sweat and knelt, bowing deeply. "Appleton greets you, master. At least you haven't forgotten. It wasn't in vain that I helped you reach the legendary realm and take the throne." The shadow spoke with a tone of casual, innate contempt, as if viewing the monarch as nothing more than an ant. Omitted, redundant description of life-level hierarchy. "I will never forget your grace. Why have you come today, master?" The monarch asked, his body still trembling. The shadow's voice drifted. "Do you remember what I told you 20 years ago? The darkness is descending. The supreme gate will open, and the myriad races of the Four Directions continent will face a new baptism. The shadow figure asked with melancholy, "Have you unified the eastern continent yet?" "Not yet," the Night Monarch stammered. "Useless fool. You are delaying my plans," the figure snapped. A cold snort from the shadow released a heart-stopping black mist that coiled around the Night Monarch, reeking of lethal danger. Sensing his master could end him with a thought, the terrified Night Monarch kowtowed repeatedly. "Appleton is incompetent. Please spare me. If the Yanhuang Empire weren't so troublesome, I would have unified the continent already." "Fine. It seems I must intervene myself. What a waste of space." Despite the shadow's biting contempt, the Night Monarch remained kneeling, forehead pressed to the ground, not daring to move. Meanwhile, in the distant Yanhuang Empire, I was obsessed with the tech tree. Driven by my will, the Empire's industrial machine roared to life, spawning steel mills, textile factories, and steam-powered irrigation projects across the land. Steam engines brought prosperity. Citizens could now lease government-owned machines to generate wealth for themselves. With human labor liberated, the Empire's economy and agriculture saw explosive growth. This surplus of time allowed the populace to fully engage with my national martial Dao curriculum and basic science education. Previously, survival left no time for self-improvement. Now, families could afford to study the Emperor's knowledge in basic martial arts while dedicating labor to new, profitable industries. While wealth gaps persisted, the average citizen moved from mere subsistence to having disposable income for leisure and development. I welcomed this. A well-fed, idle populace was the key to innovation and societal transformation. Thanks to my absolute authority, the negative side effects of this rapid industrial reform were kept to a minimum. The resulting surge in public morale earned me 5 million points of public support energy. I realized the system now primarily rewarded me with public support energy rather than random draws or talent activations. As my territory grew, the system's demands on me had scaled accordingly. Though this was considered a low-level reward, I valued it highly. I needed the energy to focus on my next goal, gunpowder technology. I intended to launch the Empire into a new military era, pairing my martial artists with a high-tech legion. A quiet moment passed. The Empire's transformation did not go unnoticed, especially by the allied alien races. They felt the impact of these changes more deeply than anyone else. Yanhuang's exports of goods had skyrocketed in both quality and volume. Production of rice wine, silk, porcelain, and tools had multiplied, with the Empire now accepting bulk custom orders tailored to alien needs. These nations, previously reliant on their own backward manufacturing, were thrilled to finally have a reliable source for specialized gear. Previously, manual labor couldn't keep up with their demand, but with steam-powered assembly lines, the Empire could fulfill any order, drawing endless gold and resources into its coffers. The alien nations used these tools to stabilize their own domestic lives, gaining the confidence to expand their own military and industrial sectors. It was a win-win, though the aliens remained baffled by the source of this sudden efficiency, as the Jinui kept the details strictly classified. Merchants only whispered of steam engines and factories that allowed for standardized, rapid production. The aliens were intensely curious about these unknown concepts, but further information remained out of reach. They would never understand the tireless efficiency of machines. Even the ministers of works and revenue were trembling with awe when reporting the new production figures to me. The court was stunned. Tasks that once took days now took mere hours thanks to assembly lines. The Ministry of Revenue estimated that applying steam power to agriculture would multiply efficiency several times over. Several times. I replied lazily, "That is far from the limit. Tell the craftsmen to refine the designs. I want a tenfold increase in grain production by next year." The court gasped in collective shock. The magical seeds provided by the Emperor years ago had already allowed for year-round, high-yield harvests. These seeds had been the backbone of the Empire's victories against the Human Alliance and the Ogre Empire. However, human labor had previously limited the potential of these crops. Now, machines allowed a single farmer to manage 1,000 acres, a staggering leap in efficiency. A ministry official performed a quick mental calculation. He gasped, "Emperor, it's not just 10 times. With the current 37 seed varieties, we are looking at a 12-fold increase. And that's a conservative estimate. The ministers were in disbelief. A 12-fold increase would solve the grain shortages that had plagued the empire since its population boom, finally allowing for exports and sustained military campaigns. Previously, supplies for the northern frontier had been scraped together with great difficulty. Now, the empire had the logistics to conquer the ogre empire multiple times over. I merely nodded. 12 times? That will suffice. The ministers stared, dumbfounded by the emperor's high standards. Now, I turned to the Minister of Works. Have the military rations, new uniforms, and hygiene supplies been manufactured? I looked at the minister. Using the steam engine as a base, I had exchanged for 17th-century blueprints from the Myriad Realms Mall for the ministry to replicate. I also spent 1 million public support energy to unlock the steam-era daily necessities tech tree. I introduced modern lifestyle items to the Yanhuang Empire, including toothbrushes, toothpaste, clothing, accessories, food, housing designs, bicycles, and simple steam-powered vehicles. I also provided glass manufacturing processes and a complete elemental table adapted for the Four Directions continent, along with various chemical substitutes. Detailed manufacturing workflows and theoretical data were handed over to the Ministry of Works. The Minister of Works reported that while templates and packaging were ready, mass production awaited the alchemist's mastery of the new chemical processes. The minister struggled with the unfamiliar concepts of physics and chemistry introduced by the emperor. It had taken the officials significant time to grasp the basic meanings of these new terms provided by me. I urged them to expedite the process, requesting to review the products before they were finalized for public use to improve the citizens' lives. I dismissed the court, and the officials bowed, shouting "Long live the Emperor," as the session ended. Officials swarmed the Minister of Works, burning with curiosity about the Emperor's new inventions. They were baffled by concepts like foam baths, specialized soaps, and the use of soft paper for hygiene instead of traditional methods. They questioned the preservation of food in metal cans, the purpose of tight-fitting military uniforms, and the function of shock-absorbent, anti-stab gear. Everything felt incredibly fresh and revolutionary. I had begun leading the Yanhuang Empire into a new era, blending technology with martial Tao. Under my support, the empire entered the steam age, significantly improving the lives of its human citizens. Meanwhile, the war in the Orc Empire remained a stalemate. The prolonged conflict was draining the empire's grain and supplies. Logistics were the crux of the war. Unlike the Dark Knight alliance backing the orcs, Su Long and Lu Bu relied solely on the Yanhuang Empire, which could not sustain a bottomless war of attrition. To stabilize Andrew's regime, Su Long and Lu Bu frequently engaged in frontline combat, leveraging their legendary realm strength to break the deadlock. However, the Dark Knight Alliance deployed dozens of legendary tier alien warriors, effectively neutralizing Su Long and Lu Bu and keeping the battlefield in a state of intense friction. Upon receiving the reports, I headed straight to the Imperial Study. I intended to unlock gunpowder technology to test its lethality against martial artists, which would dictate my next strategic moves in the Orc Empire. Recent victories by Su Long and Lu Bu had earned me significant public support energy. Combined with my existing reserves, I now possessed over 8 million points of public support energy. I spent 3 million points to research gunpowder production and 1 million to develop early firearms. Inside the Imperial Study, I activated the tech tree, and designed blueprints materialized before me. I fed the blueprints into the system's blacksmith shop, which promptly generated detailed manufacturing steps and information. The system even provided plans for factory layouts and assembly lines, making production highly efficient. Elated, I summoned the Minister of Works via the Jinui. I ordered the minister to establish gunpowder and firearms factories near the capital, tasking him with selecting the most loyal craftsmen and alchemists for the project. I mandated that ogre laborers perform the manual work, supervised by officials who were demon servants. The minister departed, and within 3 days, the first batch of daily goods was ready for my review before national rollout and export. I anticipated that these exports would generate massive wealth, significantly boosting the Yanhuang Empire's economy. I believed that once citizens grew accustomed to modern hygiene, they would never return to primitive habits, driving consumption through new standards of beauty and civilization. My dual strategy was clear: use livelihood and technology to control minor alien duchies, while using military force to conquer the remaining empires. Half a month later, the first batch of gunpowder weapons was completed. The craftsman had deviated from my expectations, creating round, mud-coated spheres rather than standard firearms. The items were slightly larger than goose eggs, piquing my curiosity as I headed to a test site outside the capital. I examined the object and asked how it functioned. The nervous minister explained that these were explosive charges designed to detonate upon impact. The minister feared the emperor might accidentally trigger the device. He explained that due to missing ingredients, the alchemists had substituted gunpowder components with energy from monster crystal cores and energy Oregon. The minister provided a detailed breakdown. I was impressed. The alchemists had taken a unique path, using their specialized knowledge to turn energy sources into explosives. I hadn't expected them to bypass traditional chemistry in favor of energy-based weaponry. They had effectively turned monster crystal cores into bombs. I asked about the cost-effectiveness of using these materials. I noted that the cost of crystals and ores scaled with the level of the martial artist they could defeat. The minister confirmed that one peak Enlightenment Realm core was required for each bomb. I asked if it could kill a peak Enlightenment Realm martial artist. I reasoned that if it couldn't kill a target of that level, the weapon would be a financial loss. The minister hesitated. He suggested a live test to confirm the results. I agreed, and the minister arranged for the Imperial Guard to set up the test site. The minister pointed to a hill 30 meters away, where armor sets of varying levels were placed for the test. I stopped Su Jiao from throwing the bomb, deciding to conduct the test myself. Summoning the Wushuang Imperial Throne, I teleported above the hill, leaving the officials stunned. I hovered 30 meters above the target, ready to test the weapon. I condensed Gang Qi in my palm, creating a whistling sound as it enveloped the energy bomb. Go! I commanded, tossing the bomb toward the hilltop. Guided by my Gang Qi and gravity, the bomb plummeted, slamming into a rock on the summit. Then, boom! A 10-meter-high flame erupted with a deafening roar, sending debris flying in all directions. The 30-meter safety buffer proved useless as shrapnel rained down. Guards shielded the Ministry of Works technicians, raising Gang Qi barriers to deflect the flying rocks. I shifted 50 meters higher, narrowly escaping the debris. Baishui Realm warriors struggled to maintain their barriers against the intense impact. Everyone was visibly shaken. If Baishui barriers were strained, a peak Enlightenment Realm warrior caught in the center would be shredded instantly. As the shockwave faded, thick dust filled the air. The crowd watched anxiously, eager to see the results. Disperse, I ordered. The dragon head of the Wushuang Imperial Throne exhaled a gust of Gang Qi, clearing the dust. The state of the hilltop was finally revealed. Silence fell. The Minister of Works gasped in shock. I smiled, satisfied with the sight. The hill was leveled, and the surrounding ground was pitted with craters, some several meters deep. Given the density of the four directions continent soil, the bomb's power far exceeded high-explosive grenades from my past life. Report the data, I said, descending and putting away my throne. The Minister of Works replied excitedly. One bomb equals the strongest strike of a peak Ninghan realm expert. With optimization, it can be even stronger. A peak Ninghan strike was indeed sufficient to destroy such a small, rocky hill. Yet, this bomb only cost a single Enlightenment realm energy, or to produce. Enlightenment, beauty, Ninghan. The gap between these realms is massive. Imagine the potential if using beauty, Baishui, or even legendary realm ores. Even a basic bomb could severely injure a Ninghan realm martial artist, an incredibly cost-effective weapon. This was the technological weapon I needed to reduce the burden of building an army while creating a new path to military strength. A guard arrived, panting, reporting that the Ninghan and 5 Enlightenment armor sets placed on the hill were destroyed. He dumped the ruined gear on the ground. The Ninghan armor was charred and twisted beyond recognition. The Enlightenment armor was reduced to scrap metal. My God! Officials gasped, realizing that even a peak Enlightenment warrior's Gang Qi could not withstand this blast. The weapon's potential stunned everyone. They realized this could become a signature weapon for the Yanhuang Empire, much like the Crimson Airship. I asked the minister, can we make bombs with Baishui realm, or? The minister replied bitterly, we are just beginning to understand explosives. We need more time and testing for higher-tier ores. Proceed. The Ministry of Revenue will supply all materials. Any alchemist who develops a stronger bomb gets a 6th rank title. Those who go further will be heavily rewarded. Anyone who creates a bomb using Legendary Realm or will be named a 1st rank hero. I declared generously. Such high status would motivate these researchers to push the limits of human ingenuity. The bomb's power, reaching an electrical age military standard, was a pleasant surprise. It reminded me that I didn't need to strictly follow my past life's technological path. The Yanhuang Empire could forge its own path, combining high-level martial arts with technology. Understood. The minister bowed excitedly. I felt a sense of admiration for these dedicated, honest researchers. Unlike the cunning people of my past life, these individuals were hard-working and sincere. Their dedication to their craft prevented them from ever cutting corners. I made a firm decision. I had planned to use the energy blender to convert ores and cores into public support energy. Now, I decided to prioritize these resources for weapons research instead. Until a substitute for nitroglycerin was found, these ores would be the Empire's strategic priority. Most races on the continent, excluding the dwarves, were still at a primitive stage of research. The Yanhuang Empire was now at the forefront, having discovered the explosive potential of these materials. I vowed to reserve all energy ores and monster cores solely for steam engines and explosives. Order the mining of the ogre empires or veins, buy up all civilian monster cores, and organize the army to hunt and farm monsters. Import as much as possible. Prepare for war. I commanded Wang Zhe. Understood. Wang Zhe recorded the orders to be distributed to the relevant departments. Though my terminology was modern, my officials had grown accustomed to my unique vocabulary. Also, I looked at the Minister of Works, who stiffened in anticipation. Have the alchemists and craftsmen collaborate to optimize the bombs. Consider adding shrapnel and sharp edges to increase lethality. Add substances that ignite upon contact with air or corrosive poisons to the energy bombs. Maximize their versatility for various military scenarios. This includes siege warfare, mountain combat, field encounters, urban warfare, and annihilation missions. Have craftsmen create firearm templates based on the blueprints. Instruct alchemists to finalize bullet specifications using energy or explosion theory for weapon upgrades. Once stabilized, I will mass-produce these for a new army. I smiled at the alchemists. You will all be heroes of Yanhuang. The new application of energy gave me great confidence in my future army. This new legion would demonstrate the terrifying power of a modernized military to the myriad races of the Four Directions continent. We live and die for Yanhuang and the human race. The crowd knelt, kowtowing in excitement. While I focused on military R&D, I remained unaware that a mysterious guest was already en route to the Yanhuang Empire. My optimization suggestions provided the alchemists with numerous viable research paths. The alchemists were eager to return to the Ministry of Works to test the new formulas. In a sense, the continent's alchemists had already grasped the rudiments of science. I intended to unlock their potential, using their discoveries to bolster the Yanhuang Empire's strength. Prepare to return to the palace, I said calmly. Seeing their enthusiasm, I decided to give these researchers the freedom to create. Their work would eventually shine under my leadership. After the Imperial Guard escorted me away, the Minister of Works rushed the alchemists back to the ministry with the recorded data. Inside the Imperial study, I examined the tech tree. Thanks to the alchemists and craftsmen, they had developed various gadgets based on steam engines and explosion theory. These innovations helped me unlock non-core technologies, saving me significant public support energy. Talented people were invaluable. With over 4 million public support energy remaining, I pondered how to spend it. I fell into deep thought. While 4 million could fund a new army, I lacked new generals to lead them. Should I keep saving? System, open the Myriad Realms Mall, I commanded. I decided to browse for items. If nothing worthwhile appeared, I would continue saving. I needed to maintain the current Steam-era tech level until the nation adapted before introducing further advancements. The list included everything from pills and skills to high-tech gear and divine armor. Although my territory level granted access to many items, I lacked the energy for the most coveted ones. Furthermore, I avoided one-time use items unless necessary for survival. Nothing particularly special here, I muttered. I sipped tea, scrolling through the interface with the boredom of a modern-day online shopper. When I reached the formation section, I remembered the Zhou Tianxing Do array, incomplete minor array, at the Su Prince's mansion had been destroyed. That array cost only 100,000 public support energy, but provided the power to resist legendary realm experts. Unfortunately, it was immobile. I had intended to buy another, but state affairs had delayed me. Perhaps I should exchange for a new formation, I decided. Despite the palace's defenses, I lacked personal protection against legendary realm threats. A formation would make the palace the safest place in the world. With 4 million energy, I could afford a decent one, though the top 10 ancient formations were far beyond my reach. I needed something more powerful than my previous minor array. Finding others lacking in cost-effectiveness, I focused on incomplete versions of the Ancient 10. I eventually found a suitable candidate, Liangyi Weichen Array. Created by Changmei Daoren, this Shushan protective array is one of the 10 ancient killing formations. It features 6 gates: life, death, obscurity, clarity, illusion, and annihilation, embodying the philosophy of the universe. The name alone suggested its immense power. It encompassed all opposing forces, left/right, hot/cold, yin/yang. Microdust implied it operated at a particle level. It likely annihilated targets into fundamental particles. I was thrilled by its potential, undeterred by the 10 billion energy cost for the full version. I couldn't afford the full version, but I found the Liangyi Weichen Array, weakened version, a system-replicated failure with 1/1000th the power, costing 3 million public support energy. Even at 1/1000th power, it was expensive. I marveled at the potential of the full version. With 10 billion energy, I would have already unified the continent. I purchased the weakened version. Ding. Please select the installation location. The map zoomed in on my territory, including Qinjian City and the Great Demon Prefecture. I selected the Imperial Capital and designated the Imperial Palace as the site. Light radiated from the screen, sinking into the ground beneath me. An hour later, the system confirmed. Installation complete. I smiled, mentally connecting to the array to test its power. Even the weakened version was formidable. I could kill an average legendary realm expert with a single thought. As I played with the array, a guard's panicked voice echoed outside. Emperor Lord, it's bad. Someone is forcing their way into the palace. I froze. Who would dare cause trouble in the imperial capital? My first thought was an assassin attempting to kill me. The Yanhuang Empire had enemies across the eastern continent who would jump at such an opportunity. Yet, I was puzzled. How could they bypass Zhao Zilong, Bai Qi, and Hua Milan? How could an assassin reach the palace? I stepped out with a grim expression, having already locked onto the intruder's position using the new array. The enemy had breached the imperial garden, threatening the inner palace and my women. I would never tolerate such an intrusion into the heart of the Yanhuang Empire. Guards knelt before me, reporting that Zhao Zilong, Bai Qi, and Hua Milan were fighting the assassins and urging me to retreat. Retreat. My voice turned icy. That word does not exist in my dictionary. Get out of my way. The Wushuang imperial throne manifested behind me, and I soared into the sky, heading toward the garden. I intended to see exactly who dared to assault my palace. The imperial garden was in chaos. Broken flowers and fallen imperial guards littered the snow-covered ground. Huh. Zhao Zilong roared as he, Bai Qi, and Hua Mulan clashed with 7 or 8 attackers amidst thunderous sounds. The attackers, dressed in green robes, surrounded a young man holding a large, compass-like disc. As the disc's needle flickered, mysterious ripples pulsed through the air. Imperial guards hit by these ripples collapsed, vomiting blood and falling unconscious. Zhao Zilong and the others found their gang qi and momentum waning every time they were struck by the waves. The disc was suppressing the legendary realm experts, forcing them to fight at the level of the soul-shattering realm. Their strength continued to dwindle. Tell your emperor to come out. We have business to discuss. Don't force us to slaughter you all, a green-robed man shouted. He impatiently swatted aside Zhao Zilong's spear. Madman, you invade the palace and kill my soldiers, yet demand an audience? Have you lost your mind? Bai Qi sneered, swinging his blade with increased ferocity. The imperial guards had suffered heavy losses, and only the intervention of the three generals had prevented the enemy from reaching the inner palace. We have important business. We wouldn't kill if your army didn't block us, a green-robed man retorted. Another added coldly, stop wasting time. Kill them, and the emperor will emerge. These lowly people from the lower realm dare to stop us. The youth with the disc commanded. As the leader, his order spurred the attackers to intensify their assault. Despite their efforts, the three generals were suppressed and unable to reach the youth, sustaining several wounds. Su Huimi, watching from the side, drew her sword and commanded, surround them. Capture that man. The imperial guards charged forward. Su Huimi realized the youth was the key. His disc was the source of their suppression. Capturing him would end the threat. The youth sneered at the charging guards. Arrogant lower realm fools. He flicked the disc's needle, releasing a powerful wave that swept through the guards. Soldiers bled from their orifices and collapsed instantly. The disc had killed dozens of Baishui realm elites in a single stroke. Keep charging. Su Huimi gripped her sword, her heart aching for the fallen soldiers, but she knew they had to buy time until reinforcements arrived. Only by destroying the disc could the generals regain their true strength. The loyal soldiers, knowing they faced death, charged forward fearlessly. Give it up, beauty. Your soldiers can't reach me. The youth leered at Su Huimi, threatening to kidnap her if the emperor didn't appear. Humph. Su Huimi ignored his taunts and ordered another charge. I'll tear your mouth off. Bai Qi roared, his aura surging as he abandoned defense for a desperate offensive. Hua Mulan fired arrows of Gang Qi, and Zhao Zilong fought with renewed speed. The youth was startled by their sudden, furious outburst. He didn't understand that to these generals, insulting Su Huimi was an unforgivable insult to the emperor. They would not tolerate his insolence. The youth frantically manipulated the disc to block the generals and strike down more guards. He felt relieved that his master's artifact was powerful enough to hold them off. He then shouted toward the palace. Su Yu, come out, or I will slaughter your soldiers and take your woman. I give you one incense stick of time. Don't be a coward. He felt a twisted sense of power, relishing the ability to command an emperor of the lower realm. Just as he gloated, a cold voice echoed through the garden. You slaughter my soldiers, invade my palace, and insult my empress. Do you think you are worthy of seeing me? It was I. The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. The emperor. The guards cheered, though the generals worried for his safety. They knew the danger of the disc. Stop hiding and show yourself. The youth scanned the area, then turned his greedy gaze towards Su Huimi. If you won't come out, I'll force you. He lunged towards Su Huimi, while the guards desperately tried to intercept him. Bai Qi and the others tried to break free, but were pinned down by the green-robed men. The disc suppression was too absolute. The disc boy hummed, releasing ripples that sent imperial guards and Jinui flying, blood spilling from their lips as they collapsed. Little beauty, you'll have to be my hostage. The disc boy laughed, lunging towards Su Huimi. He was eager to capture her, finding her beauty rivaling the fairies of his sect. He had expected a dull mission in the lower realm, but this was a delightful surprise. Fate has blessed me. The disc boy's voice dripped with the arrogance of a small man suddenly empowered. Whoosh! Su Huimi vanished instantly, leaving the disc boy grasping at thin air. Where is she? He stood stunned, scanning the area, but found nothing. Zhao Zilong and the others sighed in relief, though they were baffled by the empress's sudden disappearance. Su Huimi blinked, finding herself cradled in my warm embrace. I sat upon my throne, shielding them with a visible energy barrier high above the imperial garden, invisible to all below. Husband, Su Huimi whispered, shaken by the paralyzing effect of the disc. I stroked her hair gently. Don't fear. I will avenge you. I glared down. Get out here. The disc boy roared. I know you saved her. Come out, Su Yu. Can you save everyone? Swish, ripples surged from the disc toward the imperial guards and Bai Qi. The disc boy grinned hideously. Let's see you save them now. I'll slaughter them all. The oppressive ripples pinned the warriors, leaving them frustrated and unable to move. They weren't afraid of death, but of being slaughtered helplessly by a mere soul-shattering realm brat. Roar! An Imperial guard let out a cry of defiance, sparking a wave of sorrow and rage among the troops. Just as the ripples neared, a cold voice echoed. Activate formation. It was the Emperor. Swish, swish, swish. The withered flowers in the garden rustled, releasing strange energy that plunged the world into darkness, turning the garden into an isolated realm. Poochie! The ripples shattered into nothingness, and the paralyzed soldiers and generals vanished from sight. The garden, the floor, and the men, everything transformed. The world turned to chaos. The disc boy and his green-clad subordinates stood in the void, terrified. A formation! The subordinates cried, panicking as they realized they were trapped. The disc boy, clearly an envoy of some power, sneered. Interesting. A lower realm nation with a formation I can't decipher. He smiled haughtily. But that's all it is. I'll break this. Human Emperor? You're just a fraud. He adjusted the disk's needles, attempting to locate the formation's core. Once the core was destroyed, the formation would collapse. But then, life, death, obscurity, clarity, illusion, annihilation. 6 syllables, like the voice of the great Tao, echoed in their ears. With each word, the landscape shifted, manifesting real thunder and fire. As the final word faded, the disk's ripples vanished. The assassins collapsed to their knees under crushing pressure. The disc boy's arrogance shattered into horror. The Liangyi Weichen array. This was a legendary formation, unknown even to his sect's ancestors, recorded only in ancient texts. He realized he hadn't found a soft target. He had hit a wall of iron. How dare you run wild in my palace? My voice boomed from everywhere. Realizing the danger, the disc boy stammered. Great Emperor, a misunderstanding. I am here to invite you to the path of 10,000 clan genius. I am a guest. The presence of the Liangyi Weichen array forced his hand. He knew this ancient formation could slay gods. He was lucky to still be breathing. You killed my soldiers and insulted my wife. You are no guest of Yanhuang. I warred. Die. The formation surged, unleashing thunder and flames. Don't kill me. My master will never forgive you. The disc boy panicked, frantically adjusting his disc, but the formation suppressed all his energy. His spirit tool was no match for the ancient array. I don't care who you are. You die. My voice was cold. Boom. Thunder struck, instantly vaporizing the green-clad subordinates. The disc could suppress life, but not this formation. The soul-shattering realm martial artist stood no chance against an array fueled by 4 million public support energy. The death of his men terrified him. My master and sect have power beyond your imagination. They will destroy Yanhuang for this. He shouted, his voice trembling with genuine fear. Thunderlock. Appear, I commanded. Lightning chains formed, shattering the disk's ripples and binding the boy. Electric shocks racked his body until he fainted, his disk clattering to the ground. He had come full of confidence, having cowed other nations with his sect's power. He never expected Yanhuang to be his final stop. As consciousness faded, bitterness filled his heart. He recalled the Xintian Pavilion Master's warning. The Yanhuang Emperor is arrogant and powerful. Do not provoke him. Treat him with respect. I wasn't just arrogant. I was unreasonable. If he had just requested an audience, he wouldn't be in this position. Regret was useless now. As the boy lay unconscious, I dismissed the formation, leaving only purple lightning to restrain the captive. The lightning, capable of killing legendary peak experts, easily held the soul-shattering realm boy. With the formation gone, Bai Qi and the others regained their strength. I commanded coldly. Clean the battlefield, collect the bodies, and seal the garden. The Jinhui are to suppress all news of this. I was furious, but I remained calculated. I spared the boy to uncover his origins and true motives for infiltrating the Yanhuang Empire. Understood. Bai Qi and the Imperial Guard glared at the unconscious intruder before clearing the battlefield and recovering their fallen comrades. I'll send you back first. I have matters to attend to, I said gently, stroking Su Huimi's hair. She nodded softly. Nestled in my arms, Su Huimi looked breathtaking in her white palace gown, her soft, cat-like murmur of agreement echoing in the air. The Wushuang imperial throne flashed, instantly transporting them to the Cunning Palace. Returning to the Imperial Garden, I landed as Zhao Zilong approached, presenting the strange disc recovered from the intruder. Upon touching the disc, I received a system notification. System, bound spirit tool detected. Effect unknown. Spend public support energy to erase the current soul bond and rebind it. A spirit tool? What is a spirit tool? What is its rank? I asked internally. In the Four Continents plane, all equipment follows the same 9-rank system as martial artists. However, the term spirit tool was entirely new to me. System, spirit tools are special artifacts outside the 9-rank system. While their durability may vary, they possess unique, extraordinary effects. The system provided the clarification. It wasn't from this world. I narrowed my eyes at the disc boy, who hung limply in the air, twitching under the residual lightning. Interesting. Are you a transmigrated too? I pondered. Once the battlefield was cleared, I ordered everyone to withdraw. Though concerned for my safety, Bai Qi, Zhao Zilong, and Hua Mulan bowed and retreated to the garden perimeter. The trio withdrew with their troops, leaving me alone in the vast garden. The Jinui had swiftly suppressed news of the assassin, ensuring the Yanhuang Empire's image remained untarnished during its rapid expansion. I could not allow rumors of an assassination attempt within the Imperial Palace to spread. Such news would shatter the invincible image I had cultivated among my subjects. Consequently, the Women's Army and Qin Army legions were ordered to retreat silently after the threat was neutralized. Thanks to the garden's formations masking the sound of the struggle, the public and officials remained unaware of the incident. The sudden mobilization of the main legions only left the capital in a state of curious speculation. While the capital wondered, I focused on studying the disc. System, scan this disc, I commanded. A beam of light from the system interface enveloped the object. System, scan complete. Cost, 1,000 public support energy. Item, Inkjade bronze disc. Grade, spirit tool, special. Effect, suppresses the cultivation of anyone below golden core stage to 1 level below the user. Emits energy ripples to damage or suppress enemies. Note, already bound. Requires unbinding for use. Golden core, I frowned. I recognized golden core from the myths of my past life. Yet, the Four Continents plane was strictly a high martial world. Such cultivation concepts shouldn't exist here. System, explain the golden core stage and the origin of this disc. System, searching database and verifying user clearance. Golden core is a stage for cultivators. The 12 stages are foundation establishment, light opening, fusion, heart stirring, golden core, nascent soul, soul leaving, spirit dividing, body integration, void piercing, Mahayana, and tribulation. Variations exist across planes. The Inkjade bronze disc is an excellent tool for low-level cultivators to resist stronger foes. It was crafted by a spirit-dividing stage cultivator. The system only records items of sufficient significance. The disc was likely excluded due to its low rank and recent creation, specifically designed to counter legendary realm experts in this world. The 12-stage classification matched my expectations. So, cultivators have reached this world, I thought, my eyes turning cold. I activated my soul of the human race talent, copying Marquis Wu Zhuge's intellect to analyze the situation. The Four Continents plane was now facing an uncontrollable external force. I had planned to develop the Yanhuang Empire steadily while annexing the eastern continent. With legendary realm experts living for millennia, I had intended to proceed with caution. I aimed to unify the Four Continents step by step. But events were no longer following my trajectory. Cultivators, unstable, external factors, had already infiltrated my world. Are there others? How many? What is their goal? I frowned. The lack of intelligence was frustrating. Still, the disc provided a vital clue. If cultivation planes were inherently more powerful, my path to unification was now in jeopardy. System, compare the 9 martial Dao ranks to the 12 cultivation stages. System, analyzing data from the 4 continents and 3,116 cultivation planes. Cost, 200,000 public support energy. The high cost reflected the system's rigorous, multi-world cross-referencing to minimize error. The data appeared on the screen. I saved the data and scanned the summary. Conversion, Foundation establishment, Mingji. Light opening, peak, beauty peak Ninghan. Fusion, peak, Baisu peak Suepa. Heart stirring, peak Wuzhen legendary tier 5. Golden core, legendary peak. Legendary peak was only equivalent to a golden core cultivator. The strongest of the 4 continents were merely mid to low tier in the eyes of cultivators. I gritted my teeth. No wonder the boy dared to storm the palace. He knew the strongest in this world were only at the golden core level. I glanced at the unconscious boy suspended by lightning, then returned to my data. The system revealed that the 4 Directions continent is a top-tier high martial plane, allowing powerful martial artists to rival certain cultivators. In lesser high martial worlds, martial artists struggle to match cultivators, with the strongest often only reaching the fusion realm. This data was hard for me to accept. While I knew stronger planes existed, the sudden appearance of enemies I couldn't defeat felt unfair and rushed. Damn it! I clenched my fists, feeling as if a mysterious force was pressuring me, forcing me to constantly struggle for survival. The problem was immediate. There was no turning back. To ensure my survival, I needed power capable of threatening the strongest cultivators. I wouldn't compromise if they threatened my women, my land, my Yanhuang Empire, or my life. Self-preservation requires strength, but first, I had to uncover their true intentions. Knowing the enemy is the key to victory. I took a deep breath and stared at the captive boy. Intelligence was my most urgent need. I had to get it from the boy. Looks like I have to exchange for that item. I sighed, pained by the cost of the public support energy required. Before that, I had to claim the Jade Bronze Disc. It was a defensive treasure capable of restraining golden core cultivators. Since I wasn't even at the legendary realm, I asked the system how to break the disc's existing bond. The system explained that the cost to erase a bond depends on the strength of the original owner. I decisively ordered the erasure. Milky white energy threads flowed from the system, infiltrating the disc. 10 minutes later, a snapping sound echoed. The disc dimmed, then glowed with a crystalline luster as the energy took hold. I felt a blood-link connection. I could now control it with a thought. The system deducted 300,000 public support energy, dampening my mood. I worried about the cost of even higher-tier treasures. In reality, I had gotten a bargain, seizing a treasure nurtured by another's lifeblood for a mere 300,000 points. As I seized the disc, the boy vomited blood in his sleep. The forced severance of his mental link caused the boy severe internal injury. The blood splattered onto the flowers below, drawing my attention. Humph! I floated into the air, surrounded by lightning chains. Clad in white robes and purple lightning, I looked like a god. The pain jolted the boy awake. He opened his eyes to see his predicament and me. Great Emperor Su. The boy suppressed his resentment and pleaded, "Great Emperor, please let me down. I have important matters to discuss." Intimidated by the Liangyi Weichen array, the boy abandoned his previous arrogance. The array was a legendary formation that would cause chaos in the cultivation plains. If he knew it was only a weakened imitation, he might not have been so humble. Important matters? I smiled coldly. I ask, you answer. Lie and you die. The boy's smile stiffened. He finally witnessed the legendary tyranny of Su Yu. I viewed all things as beneath me, dismissing the boy's arrogance as that of an ant. The boy, seething, lowered his head. I will tell you everything. Where are you from? I asked. I come from a cultivation plane among the 3,000 small worlds, serving the immortal palace Dao Gate. The boy answered honestly, hoping his background would deter me. I realized the immortal palace Dao Gate understood the concept of planes, suggesting they had traveled between them before. This was bad news. They were experienced transmigrators, unlike the ignorant natives of the 4 Directions continent. My eyes flashed. Why have you come to the 4 Directions continent? The boy was only at the Suepa realm, equivalent to the fusion realm, weaker than me. My master sent me to open the path of 10,000 clan genius and recruit talent via Xintian Pavilion to replenish the immortal palace Dao Gate. I, bolstered by Marquis Wu Zhuge's wisdom, immediately sensed the lie. The boy was evasive. The immortal palace Dao Gate had a different agenda. I smiled. Oh, why seek me out? And what is your relationship with Xintian Pavilion? I needed more intel before exposing the boy. The boy flattered him. You are a human prodigy. We prefer recruiting human talents like you over the alien races. Our sect is composed of human cultivators. He added, we hope you will help us recruit more geniuses. In our world, the Golden Core realm, which equals your legendary realm, is merely the first step of cultivation. The Disc Boy, sensing the human race's plight, tried to win me over by highlighting their shared heritage with the immortal Palace Tao Gate and dangling the allure of cultivation's superior power. I mused that the immortal Palace Tao Gate had sent a clever, silver-tongued agent for a reason. I scoffed internally at the boy's attempt to lecture me on cultivation basics, but maintained a calm facade, gesturing for him to continue. The boy claimed he had recruited many emperors for the path of 10,000 clan genius, promising that the strong could become disciples of the immortal palace and attain godhood. The boy grew frantic and animated, his face flushing with excitement as if he were already an immortal, despite being restrained by lightning chains. I sneered at the boy's performance. The boy pleaded with me to join, promising power beyond the legendary realm and the ability to dictate the fate of all races. He looked at me with a feigned, seductive sincerity. I dismissed the offer of immortality and godhood, demanding to know the boy's connection to Xintian Pavilion. I demanded the truth with a cold smile. The boy, internally cursing the arrogant emperor who dared look down on immortals, revealed that Xintian Pavilion was merely a foothold for the immortal Palace Tao Gate. He figured the secret would soon be public anyway, so he felt no harm in revealing it. When I pressed for more, the boy claimed he was just a low-level disciple with limited knowledge. I questioned how he arrived on the Four Directions continent and whether they possessed interplanar travel technology. I continued my interrogation. The boy's eyes darted around, feigning ignorance to avoid the core question. I calmly shifted the topic, asking if any other factions had arrived. Others, the boy echoed. He hesitated, then claimed only the immortal Palace Tao Gate had descended. I roared, my cold gaze pinning the boy down. As my anger flared, the lightning chains tightened. The sound of sizzling flesh filled the air. The boy shrieked in agony, begging for mercy and promising to tell the truth. I relented, though the chains remained. I warned him that he would suffer if he continued to lie. Trembling, the boy admitted that other planes had indeed sent forces to the Four Directions continent. I narrowed my eyes. My suspicions were confirmed. Outside the Imperial Garden, Bai Qi and the others heard the screams and offered silent condolences to the doomed assassin. They knew the assassin had sealed his own fate. Inside the garden, the boy seethed with hatred. He vowed to make me pay 100-fold for this humiliation if he survived. The boy suppressed his burning rage. He knew he had to cooperate to survive. He resolved to feed me information while withholding the most sensitive secrets to protect himself from his masters. I watched him with mocking eyes, demanding a full list of the factions present. The boy rattled off the list. The immortal Palace Tao Gate in the east, the Holy See in the west, the Martial Saint Pavilion in the north, and the Buddhist Kingdom in the south. He added that a mysterious abyss plane force was also present, though they remained elusive. The boy stopped abruptly, fearing he had said too much. He remained wary of the evil me. I asked if that was all. The boy wailed, begging to be released, and claiming he was just a small, innocent pawn. He promised me great rewards if he were spared. He played the part of an innocent boy perfectly. I sneered at the empty promise and told him to be quiet. The boy asked if he was finally being released. He misinterpreted my calm demeanor as a sign of weakness. He assumed no emperor would risk offending a powerful sect for a minor dispute. He believed his status as a wielder of a spirit tool proved his sect's power, but he was wrong. Release you? I laughed, listing the boy's crimes: attempted assassination, kidnapping the Empress, and slaughtering the Imperial Guard. My voice shifted from cold to eerily calm. The boy panicked, desperate to explain. I pointed out the flaw in his story. While the other factions might seek disciples, the Abyss Plane demons certainly did not. I mocked him. Demons were creatures of slaughter, not cultivation. They had no need for disciples. The boy stammered, sweating profusely. He couldn't explain the discrepancy, as demons evolved through blood and soul consumption, not traditional inheritance. He wondered in terror how this lowly emperor knew so much about the abyss. As the boy's mind raced in vain, I raised my hand, signaling the end. Sensing the killing intent, the disc boy panicked, sweating profusely. Emperor Lord, Don't. I have something vital to tell you. I'm done wasting time on a liar, I declared, raising my hand. Lightning, come. The thunderous chains binding the boy surged with violet electricity, instantly flooding his body with lethal current. A piercing scream echoed through the imperial garden, followed by a sudden, violent sound. The boy's body exploded under the electric shock, his flesh vaporized and scattered into nothingness. Having failed to reach the soul-leaving stage, he lacked a primordial spirit. His physical destruction meant total death. All his grudges, ambitions, and desires vanished with his life. I remained silent. I would never leave a potential threat alive. The boy's fate had been sealed from the start. Disperse. With a wave of my hand, the makeshift Liangyi Weichen array retracted into the void. The boy's lies made his information unreliable, offering little of value to me. Weighing my options, I sighed. It seems I must spend some public support energy. Open the system Myriad Worlds Mall, I commanded. The interface appeared, displaying a vast array of powerful items. I realized that with enough resources, I could easily slaughter Tribulation Stage cultivators using the legendary ancient formations available here. Unfortunately, even these top-tier items were currently beyond my reach due to a lack of funds. Shaking off my regret, I searched the catalog for a specific item, the soul-searching pill. The soul-searching pill allows the user to extract memories from a deceased or incapacitated being within 24 hours. Cost: 500,000 public support energy. This was far more effective than a truth pill. I had considered a truth pill earlier, but the system warned that the boy's mind was protected by a restriction that would trigger instant soul destruction upon interrogation. This was clearly the work of a cultivator. With less than 1,000,000 energy points, I had hoped to save the 500,000 cost, but the boy's lack of cooperation left me no choice but to kill him and use the pill. I took a deep breath and crushed the pill. A mysterious force swept through the garden, collecting the boy's lingering soul waves. The memory data was successfully uploaded to the system. I opened the memory file. A life's worth of memories, complex, emotional, and sensory, flooded the interface. The boy's soul was filled with questions about the world and the chaotic noise of existence. For a cultivator, deeper knowledge only brought more confusion. I filtered out the trivial life experiences, emotional baggage, and existential musings. I discovered the boy was a shut-in who spent his spare time on mundane, private habits. Disgusted, I deleted the filth but kept the useful cultivation techniques. I also saved the boy's insights into cultivation and high-level combat experiences. Like a shopper in a supermarket, I meticulously curated the memories. I focused on gathering intelligence regarding the Immortal Palace Dao Gate. The Immortal Palace Dao Gate was a powerful sect from a higher plane, boasting numerous Tribulation Stage experts. The boy was merely a low-level kitchen disciple sent to the Four Directions continent. Because of plane will restrictions, high-level cultivators couldn't descend directly, so they sent weaklings who wouldn't trigger the plane's defenses. A high-ranking member had taken the boy as a disciple, gifting him a minor artifact to avoid attracting the attention of the plane will. The plane will is the embodiment of natural laws, gravity, fire, lightning, and acts as a formidable, non-sentient guardian against outsiders. Outsiders must gain the will's approval to enter or face its lethal, mysterious power. The sect used the boy as a scout. Xintian Pavilion was indeed their long-standing proxy on the continent, established 10 millennia ago. They've been planning this for a long time, I muttered, digging deeper. Various higher plane factions were sending low-level scouts to locate assets they had planted ages ago. Multiple Taoist sects were involved in this coordinated descent. For now, they were only using low-level personnel to coordinate, waiting for the right moment to send their true powerhouses. The boy didn't know how they planned to bypass the plane will's final judgment. I learned they were all searching for something, or someone, of immense importance. The boy was too low-ranking to know the true nature of this target. The sect had been searching across thousands of planes for tens of thousands of years. Shockingly, the boy's memories revealed they had previously raided parallel versions of Earth. They had destroyed the very world I originated from. Every choice creates a new timeline, eventually forming parallel planes. Upon arrival, these cultivators would seize control, and if they failed to find their target, they would ruthlessly plunder the plane's resources, brainwash the talented, and slaughter the rest. They had wiped out nearly 10 billion people, leaving only a few million survivors and destroying the civilization. These were not the elegant, detached immortals of legends, but cold-blooded monsters. I could tolerate the conquest of alien worlds, but not this. They treated living humans as experimental fodder, medicine, and tools, sparing neither infants nor the talented, whom they enslaved as mindless thugs. This was pure, predatory colonialism, destroying thriving civilizations out of spite for failing to find their prize. They'll be here soon. These devils, I whispered, my eyes cold and my fists clenched in fury. I was relieved that the intruders had only targeted a parallel plane rather than my home plane, Earth. Main planes possess formidable laws and wills, making them difficult to conquer, whereas parallel planes are far more vulnerable. The Four Directions continent was the first main plane these higher plane factions attempted to conquer. I felt a mix of anger and amusement. I hadn't even begun my own conquest of the Myriad Realms planes, yet these factions were already invading my territory. While they were technically enemies, their ultimate goals regarding the Myriad Realms were paradoxically aligned. However, I could not tolerate their treatment of humans as mere livestock, commodities, or low-level creatures. I was an extreme humanist. To me, human life was paramount. The immortal Palace Tao Gate and their allies viewed all lower-plane beings with utter contempt. This arrogance was ingrained in their blood. They viewed lower-plane life with the same indifference humans feel toward ants. Unlike these factions, I maintained a fundamental distinction. I sought to conquer, not to exterminate my own kind. I would kill, but I would never slaughter the human race. A wise ruler knows that the support of his people is the foundation of his power. I would never destroy my own potential base for short-term gain. These invaders were encroaching on my future territory and subjects, effectively stealing from my own coffers. My eyes turned cold. They were touching my property. It was particularly galling that the immortal Palace Tao Gate, supposedly human cultivators, treated their own race like demons. I stood in the Imperial Garden, calming myself to analyze the situation. The captured boy knew little. I remained ignorant of the invaders' true objective on the Four Directions continent. Without knowing their intent, formulating a strategy was difficult. The Shintian Pavilion, previously seen as a neutral intelligence organization, was actually a subordinate of the immortal Palace Tao Gate. I realized I could use this connection to my advantage. I suspected the path of 10,000 clan genius was merely a front for their true agenda. The pavilion existed to facilitate the infiltration of immortal Palace Tao Gate members and gather intelligence to facilitate their takeover. I wondered if destroying the pavilion would stop them. I quickly dismissed the idea. It was too simplistic. The boy's memories revealed that multiple higher plane factions had already laid groundwork across the continent. Identifying which local powers were puppets for which faction was nearly impossible. Destroying one branch of the Shintian Pavilion would be easy, but they had branches across every continent. Even total destruction of the pavilion would only stop one faction, leaving the others unchecked. Such an act would only alert the enemy without solving the core threat. The situation was dire and promised a difficult struggle. I looked at the sky with a heavy expression. The setting sun cast long shadows, leaving me looking like a solitary statue. I viewed this plane as my own and needed to grow stronger rapidly to defend it before the invaders arrived in force. This was no longer a simple matter of using the system to win battles. It was a fight for survival against superior powers. To keep what I had built, I had to resist. 2 hours later, Bai Qi and the others found me leaving the garden. Emperor Lord. They knelt, ashamed that assassins had breached the palace under their watch. They assumed my grim mood was due to the security failure. I waved them off, but Zhao Zilong remained kneeling, consumed by guilt. Hua Mulan, usually stoic, also knelt, deeply self-reproachful. 3 legendary realm generals felt humiliated that a mere boy had led assassins into the heart of the Yanhuang Empire. This is not your fault. I comforted them, explaining that the enemy possessed power far beyond their comprehension. The trio was stunned by the implication. They knew the Yanhuang Empire was the strongest military power on the continent. To hear it could be destroyed so easily was terrifying. Yet, they trusted my judgment implicitly. They remained silent, struggling to grasp the scale of the threat. I ordered them to tighten security, increase patrols, and have the Jinui investigate anyone suspicious. My tone was calm but firm. I had to ensure the empire remained free of internal traitors. I could not risk any infiltration by the immortal palace Dao Gate. The generals left, sensing the coming storm. I then summoned the Jinui from the shadows. I ordered Yang Mingwei to infiltrate the Xintian Pavilion and deploy agents across all 4 continents to monitor the invaders. The Jinui were surprised by the shift in strategy, but obeyed. Understood. The Jinui were momentarily stunned, but their absolute loyalty to me compelled them to nod in agreement. Emperor Lord. A Jinui whispered a warning. We previously attempted to infiltrate Xintian Pavilion, but their counterintelligence is formidable and their recruitment process is strictly vetted. Forced entry risks exposing our agents to lethal danger. Xintian Pavilion is essentially an intelligence agency masquerading as a sect, making their counter-surveillance measures naturally superior. The Jinui operate on a strategy of elite quality over quantity, prioritizing the survival of their members, who are highly skilled and fiercely loyal. They are my eyes and ears, the Empire's most precious, elite assets. Danger. I smiled calmly. Regardless of the danger, I want you to track every move of Xintian Pavilion. Spare no cost. Now is not the time to fear for one's life. Failure to act decisively will lead to far greater losses later. Lacking intelligence, I must deploy the Jinui fully to gather the data needed for my next strategic move. Shaken by my resolve, the Jinui bowed, shouting, "Understood." I waved them away. The agents vanished into the shadows to relay orders to Yang Mingwei. I dismissed my attendants and paced the palace, brow furrowed. These shifts in power occurred beneath the peaceful facade of the citizens' daily lives. No one knew the immense pressure their emperor faced, nor the bitterness he harbored toward a fate that refused him rest. I cursed the heavens for constantly throwing stronger enemies in my path, vowing not to be toyed with to my death. Sighing inwardly, I arrived at Cunning Palace. The palace was lit, with maids and female guards patrolling the entrance. Surprised to find them awake near midnight, I gestured for the maids to remain silent as I approached. The maids bowed silently and retreated. I entered to find my wives waiting. Miss Hueen was dozing at the table, exhausted. The others were similarly slumped in sleep, refusing to retire until their husband returned. Only Su Huimi, a martial artist, remained alert, watching the door with concern. Seeing me, she exclaimed with relief, "Husband." Her voice stirred the others. The empress and consorts awoke to see their beloved man standing before them. "Husband, are you hurt? Did those assassins touch you?" They rushed to me, their faces tear-stained and filled with worry. Touched, I embraced them. "You foolish women, why are you still awake? We were worried because you were gone so long." Miss Hueen sighed, gazing at me longingly. Her beauty had only deepened under my care, her elegance and charm captivating. "We were terrified when we heard of the assassination attempt," Princess Mingzhu whispered. They had been anxious all day, only finding slight relief when Su Huimi confirmed the assassins were captured. I held their hands, reassuring them that the threat was neutralized. Looking at Linganer, Shangwan Waner, Princess Mingzhu, Miss Hueen, Su Huimi, and Nian, I felt a surge of protectiveness. For the sake of my empire and these women, I would never allow the higher plane to destroy their world. "If anything happened to you, I would not wish to live," Linganer sobbed. 20,581. Linganer wept, her delicate appearance tugging at my heart. "Don't say such things," I said firmly, embracing her. "I will never let anyone harm you." Though my tone was unusually serious, the women felt a surge of sweetness as they tended to me. Suddenly, a small voice piped up, "Unin." The little fox squeezed through the crowd and climbed onto my shoulder, brushing its 9 tails against my face. The creature's antics brought laughter to the room, easing their tension. As long as I was there, they felt secure. A female guard suddenly knelt at the door. "Emperor Lord, urgent report from the Orc Empire front." The atmosphere shattered. I stepped out, my expression cold. "Prepare the carriage." To the Imperial study. A late-night emergency report suggested the battlefield situation had become dire. The women remained behind, Nian sighing at my sudden departure. "Do not blame him," Shangwan Waner comforted her. He must prioritize the state. 20,593. Shangwan Wanner spoke up to soothe Nian. Miss Huyen teased. Nian, if he stayed, you would be the first to be exhausted by him. Nian blushed, embarrassed by the thought of my passion. They didn't mind the solitude, but they ached for the burdens I carried. At the Imperial study, an Imperial guard handed me a secret memorial. I frowned. With 2 legendary realm experts supporting the Orc Empire and Andrew holding the advantage, why is there an emergency? I began reading the report. Only a life-or-death crisis would force the proud Su Long and the arrogant Lu Bu to request reinforcements. The Imperial Guard reported to me. Andrew, the Beast Monarch, initially held the advantage in the Orc Empire with 4 legions, including the elite Behemoth Legion. With support from God of War Su Long and Lu Bu, advisors Zhuge and Chen Kun predicted Andrew would stabilize the empire within 3 months. However, half a month ago, the usurper Cecil orchestrated a betrayal, causing 3 of Andrew's legions, including the Behemoths, to defect and attack their former allies. Cecil has since captured 31 cities, reversing the war's momentum. Andrew is left with fewer than 1 million troops, including human reinforcements and a Centaur Archer Legion, while facing 8 million hostile orcs. The Imperial Guard delivered the grim details. With 1 million against 8 million, and 2 human legendary realm experts against 20 orc counterparts, the odds are insurmountable. The sudden collapse of the situation in just 2 weeks is baffling, given the massive disparity in numbers and top-tier power. I am troubled. With the threat of a higher plane invasion looming, the Orc Empire's instability threatens the Yanhuang Empire's development. Even if Andrew loses, I plan to cripple Cecil to prevent an invasion of Yanhuang, eventually planning to conquer the Orc Empire later. But time is short. Losing Andrew as a pawn would leave the Yanhuang Empire isolated against a potential higher plane invasion. I decide to save the Orc Empire. I order Zhao Zilong and Bai Qi to lead the Qin army and White Horse Yizong to the front, accompanied by a 100,000-strong Red Airship bombarding legion. This newly formed legion consists of 100,000 non-combatant soldiers operating 1,000 H-001 Red Robe airships. The H-001s were developed by the Ministry of Works specifically to carry energy bombs. These airships are loaded with modified energy bombs, functioning effectively as bombers. They are equipped with advanced military tech, including bomb ejection systems, targeting locks, and military telescopes. I intend to test the power of my new technology core in the Orc Empire's theater of war. Understood. The guard departed immediately to relay orders for the bombs to be loaded overnight. Despite the late hour, the Imperial Palace remained on high alert. Bai Qi and Zhao Zilong sought an audience, expressing concern that leaving the capital would leave me vulnerable to more assassins. They remained haunted by how the Disc Boy had infiltrated the capital. I dismissed their concerns, explaining that the infiltration was only possible due to the unique properties of the ink Jade Bronze Disc. I knew the Disc Boy was a lone vanguard from the Immortal Palace Dao Gate, with no second wave coming. Even if more assassins arrived, my weakened Liangyi Weichen array would protect me from these low-level invaders. I understood the invaders' goals, to subjugate the locals and recruit talented individuals for the path of 10,000 clan genius. As long as their interests didn't clash, I was safe for now. Thus, I would not abandon the Orc Empire over potential threats. Enough. Depart under the cover of night and move with haste. I commanded. Recognizing the strategic necessity of controlling the Orc Empire, the generals bowed and departed to lead their troops via transport airships. A fleet of H-001 airships followed the transports, disappearing silently into the night toward the Orc Empire. 3 days later, at the front line in Xinyu City. The city is surrounded by a desolate, vast desert filled with giant cacti and massive, house-sized succulents. The Gobi Desert outside the city is now stained with blood and littered with corpses. 8 million orc troops are camped arrogantly just 10 miles away. The scent of meat and wine from the enemy camp drifts into the city. The aroma is a constant, maddening temptation for the starving defenders. Lu Bu watches the enemy camp, pondering Cecil's strategy. He deems Cecil a brilliant leader, perhaps even superior to Andrew in certain respects. Cecil's decision to camp openly without patrols is a calculated move. He knows the defenders, 900,000 strong, including Black Jade Cavalry, Bingzhou Wolf Cavalry, human regulars, and centaur archers, are too outnumbered to sortie. Cecil is certain they won't dare attack. Xinyu City is the final barrier. If they leave the walls, Cecil will crush them. The open cooking is a psychological tactic to humiliate and demoralize the defenders. A guard asked if Lu Bu needed rest. No. Have the logistics team bring food to the soldiers. Lu Bu ordered the men to stay alert until God of War Su Long arrived to relieve them. They needed strength to fight. Lu Bu noted that the orcs wouldn't attack in the midday heat, but warned against complacency. Cecil is cunning. Stay sharp. The guard saluted and left. Su Long now commands the defense, as Andrew has run out of options. Xinyu City is the linchpin. Its fall would mean Andrew's defeat. Su Long and Lu Bu fight on, knowing the Empire's fate impacts my grand design. Andrew remains in the city, though his presence fails to inspire the human-dominated forces. The soldiers eat their meager rations while keeping their weapons gripped tight. No one dares to relax. Yanhuang's strict military discipline is evident in every action. Half an hour later, Su Long arrived with the Black Jade Cavalry to relieve the watch. Exhausted after 7 sleepless days, Su Long's hair had begun to gray, yet his resolve remained unshaken. Despite Su Long's best efforts, Cecil saw through every strategy. With the massive disparity in troop numbers, Su Long's expertise in direct combat was neutralized. Xinyu City could only hold its ground and await reinforcements. Holding out was proving difficult. Old War God, be careful with these guys, Su Long warned. Lu Bu nodded at Su Long, rest assured. I've fought these orc whelps in the northern frontier plenty. They think they can take my city with this little force? A joke, I smiled, knowing Su Long was merely trying to reassure Lu Bu. Without Su Long's deep understanding of orc weaknesses, they wouldn't have lasted even half a month. They would have fallen much faster. As Su Long and Lu Bu prepared to rotate, a thunderous sound erupted. Boom, boom, boom. 10 miles away, Cecil's army began beating their war drums, the intense rhythm echoing across the battlefield. They're attacking? Lu Bu and Su Long stiffened, narrowing their eyes at the enemy. It was unusual for orcs to attack during the peak heat of the day, yet here they were. Su Long was puzzled. Cecil was too cunning to make such a tactical error without reason. The enemy army advanced and halted 3 miles out, a safe distance from archers, yet perfect for a charge. Defensive positions. The Bingzhou Wolf Cavalry Deputy General roared. The human soldiers tensed, and the centaur archers readied their bows. War was imminent, though Cecil wouldn't launch the full assault until the sun dipped lower. A Wolf Rider General emerged from the 8 million-strong orc formation, his gang chief flaring. I am Jax, General under the Beast Monarch. Andrew is a traitor who invited humans into our lands, a disgrace to the Orc Empire. The Empire values valor. Knowing there are 2 legendary realm humans inside, I challenge them. 2-legged beasts, dare you fight? I will take your heads to boost our morale. Jax sneered. If no one dares, once the Beast Monarch crushes the traitor Andrew, we will invade Yanhuang. I will personally behead me. Jax was clearly a legendary realm expert himself. Insolent. How dare he speak the great emperor's name? The beast is courting death. The human soldiers were incensed by Jax's arrogance and his threats against me. A duel, Lu Bu muttered, gripping his halberd. No, Su Long countered. He wants to kill a human legendary to shatter our morale before the main assault. Su Long stared at the enemy lines. In an hour, the heat will break, and the real slaughter begins. Deep in the enemy formation, Cecil sat in a grand palanquin. He was determined to minimize his own casualties by demoralizing the defenders first. A duel was the perfect tool to achieve this. If either Su Long or Lu Bu fell, the human morale would collapse. Kill a human legendary? Let's see if they have the skill. War God, I request to fight. Lu Bu's eyes burned with bloodthirsty intent. He feared no duel. Su Long frowned. I fear a trap. Let me test their strength first. They could not refuse the duel. It was a matter of morale. To maintain the soldiers' spirit, they had to respond with strength. No, you are the commander. You cannot risk yourself, Lu Bu insisted. I must go. Su Long was the soul of the 800,000-strong human army. His safety was paramount. Furthermore, Su Long needed to conserve his energy to command the defense against 8 million orcs. Su Long sighed, conceding. Then be careful. Don't worry. Lu Bu grinned. Below the walls, Jax roared. Are there no humans left? Are you all cowards? Go home to your mothers. Humans are trash. Cowards. You'll always be the lowest race on the Four Directions continent, the orcs jeered. The human soldiers were red-faced with rage, desperate to slaughter the mocking orcs. Shut up, the soldiers shouted back. The Behemoth Legion, 10-meter-tall monsters with thick hides, began beating their chests. Roar! Hundreds of behemoths roared in unison, drowning out the human shouts. The human momentum faltered. Let the behemoths tear you apart, the orcs laughed. The human soldiers glared. The behemoths were supposed to be their allies until Cecil's treachery turned them against the humans. Lu Bu scoffed at the low morale. Clean your neck, I'm coming for it. Lu Bu leaped from the wall, whistling for his mount. A blood-red steed dove after him, catching him in midair before landing with a cloud of dust. Boom! Lu Bu pointed his halberd at Jax. A wolf whelp dares to challenge me? I'll slaughter you and feed you to my men. Roar! The human soldiers erupted in cheers, their bloodlust ignited. Too much talk. Let's fight. Jax licked his lips, grinning savagely. Beat the drums. The war drums thundered, filling the battlefield with a chilling, murderous atmosphere. Everyone watched the duel with bated breath. While traditional in the Four Directions continent, such duels between generals had become rare in modern warfare. Witnessing a clash between legendary realm fighters, the onlookers prayed for their respective champions to prevail. The duel began. Jax circled Lu Bu like a cunning fox. Though legendary realm fighters could battle in the air, they remained grounded to ensure the duel served its purpose, boosting morale and demoralizing the enemy. Come fight. I grant you 3 moves. Lu Bu beckoned with a sneer. Arrogant. Jax roared, spurring his giant wolf mount toward Lu Bu. As a legendary realm orc, Jax moved with blinding speed, reaching Lu Bu in an instant. Swish! A furious slash descended. Lu Bu dodged effortlessly. The blade's gang chi scraped against his protective aura with a screeching sound. 1 move. Lu Bu counted calmly. Again. Jax roared, his blade's gang chi surging. He abandoned complex techniques for the raw, refined simplicity of a master. Jax's 3 strikes were fluid and vicious, yet Lu Bu avoided them all with minimal movement. Jax's aura failed to even breach Lu Bu's defenses. As Jax finished his 3rd strike, Lu Bu declared, My turn. Overlord cleaves the heavens. Lu Bu swung his halberd, unleashing a massive wave of gang chi. Jax, shocked by the power, was forced back along with his mount. Before Jax could recover, Lu Bu raised his halberd high and brought it crashing down. The halberd shimmered with blinding light, tearing through the air with unstoppable force. Damn it, that was just a feint. Jax realized too late, his reflexes failing to match Lu Bu's speed. Splice! The halberd shattered Jax's aura and cleaved him in 2. Splatter! Blood and viscera sprayed as Jax and his wolf mount fell to the ground, severed. 1 move. That was Jax's final thought, his severed face frozen in terror and disbelief. He died unable to accept that he couldn't survive a single strike from a human legendary realm fighter. The battlefield fell into deathly silence. The orcs were stunned, staring blankly at Jax's corpse. The sight of the blood mocked their earlier overconfidence. Lu Fengxian, invincible. The Bingzhou wolf cavalry roared from the walls, their voices raw with excitement. The human soldiers' morale surged as they joined the chant. Lu Fengxian, invincible. Su Long smiled, impressed. Lu Bu was indeed a formidable general, perhaps even stronger than himself. Among all of my legendary realm experts, Lu Bu was undoubtedly the Yanhuang Empire's greatest warrior. Lu Bu's red hair neighed, pawing the earth. Do any of you dare fight? Lu Bu stood tall, his halberd pointed at the 8 million enemy troops. Yanhuang's Lu Bu, challenge accepted. His declaration ignited the human army, who erupted in deafening cheers. Yanhuang! Yanhuang! 800,000 human soldiers roared, declaring their pride. The orcs, including the behemoths, were demoralized, their spirits crushed by the display. The Orc Legion's morale plummeted following Jax's death. The Orcs turned toward the palanquin of Prince Cecil, the Beast Monarch. Beast Monarch, let us fight. I will kill this arrogant human. Orc generals clamored for a chance to face the man who treated their massive army as nothing. Cecil remained calm, silent for a moment before gesturing to his guards. The guard roared. The Beast Monarch commands, fight again. The Orcs beat their chests, and the war drums sounded. A 2-meter-tall bearman stepped forward, wielding 2 massive axes. The bearman stood before Lu Bu. Human, I am Aston. I will be your opponent. Another legendary realm orc. Cecil knew only a peer could stand against Lu Bu. The orcs cheered, Aston. Aston. Lu Bu narrowed his eyes, sensing Aston was stronger than Jax. A cruel, bloodthirsty smile touched his lips. Lu Bu dismounted to fight on foot. The second round began. Roar. You dare fight on foot. Aston charged, swinging his axe. Swish. The heavy axe tore through the air. Lu Bu dodged, sensing the immense power. Aston pressed the attack, his relentless axe strikes creating a suffocating, wave-like pressure. The orcs roared in excitement as Aston seized the initiative. Lu Bu parried, the metal screeching. His halberd bent under the bearman's raw strength. As expected of a bearman, Lu Bu muttered, dodging away. Aston laughed, his axe strikes sending shockwaves through the air. Lu Bu's arms trembled, but he remained silent, waiting for an opening. Orcs excelled in raw power, while humans were more balanced. Matching an orc in strength was unwise. Human, can you only run? Where is your arrogance now, coward? Aston taunted. The orcs jeered, their morale soaring as Aston dominated. On the walls of Qianyu City, the human soldiers gripped their weapons, praying for Lu Bu to prevail. Clang, Lu Bu parried the axe. Overlord. He swung his halberd, aura surging. This move won't work on me. Aston sneered, preparing to meet the strike head-on. Aston, having felt Lu Bu's inferior strength, was confident in a direct clash. He would not back down. Swish, Aston swung his giant axe, unleashing a torrent of wild, overwhelming gang chi with terrifying momentum. Lu Bu feinted, dodging to the side, and thrust his halberd with blinding speed toward Aston's temple. Who said I'd use Overlord cleaves the heavens? Strength doesn't equate to intelligence, you foolish bearman. Aston, caught off guard by the sudden strike, tried to adjust, but his massive strength cost him the necessary agility. Though fast to the naked eye, he was a fraction slower than Lu Bu, a fatal gap in a duel between legendary realm experts. Asterisk rip. Splat. Asterisk the halberd pierced Aston's defenses and drove into his skull. As the bearman stiffened, his immense vitality kept him conscious, and he prepared a desperate counterattack. Lu Bu twisted the halberd, detonating his gang chi inside the beast's head. Boom! Aston's head exploded, and his massive body collapsed. Another enemy slain in a single move. The battlefield fell into dead silence. The Orc Legion's cheers died instantly. They stared at the triumphant Lu Bu in stunned disbelief. Lu Fengxian. The human soldiers atop Qianyu City roared, their morale soaring. Su Long watched with admiration. Lu Bu's martial prowess and experience were exceptional. Inside his palanquin, Prince Cecil's face darkened. His plan to crush human morale had backfired, demoralizing his own 8 million troops instead. Cecil had handpicked his best warriors to hunt legendary humans, yet even they couldn't stop this man. He hadn't expected me to possess such a powerful general. The orcs were now visibly dispirited. Under the scorching sun, the orcs grew irritable, sweating profusely and panting in the heat. If he couldn't take Qianyu City today, casualties would mount. Cecil, considering himself a wise ruler, sought a way to regain the advantage and minimize losses. Lu Bu pointed his halberd at the orc army, roaring, "Orcs? Is that all? 2 battles, 2 defeats. Begone, or I shall cut you all down." 8 million orcs stood silent, none daring to retort. They felt unworthy of challenging his words. If their general was this invincible, how terrifying must the soldiers inside the city be? The orcs began to waver. In cold steel warfare, the general is the soldier's courage. Lu Bu's presence crushed their spirit. Beast Monarch, what do we do? We cannot let him continue, or our soldiers will be too fearful to fight, leading to massive losses. Orc generals whispered anxiously to Cecil. Cecil looked at the retreating Lu Bu and called out, "A loss is a loss, but your arrogance is misplaced. 2 duels won't change the fact that Qianyu City will fall." His venomous words instantly dampened the human soldiers' spirits. They realized that one man's victory couldn't bridge the gap of a hopeless siege. The Yanhuang Empire couldn't hold off 8 million orcs with only 800,000 men. The odds were 10 to 1. Lu Bu sneered, pointing his halberd at Cecil. "We shall see who wins when we fight." Bold, but choosing death when you know you're outmatched is just human stupidity. Cecil smiled. "Why not stay and continue to duel my warriors?" The city walls went quiet. Su Long frowned and shouted, "Don't listen. He wants a war of attrition. You can't beat him, so you send wave after wave? You call yourselves the bravest race. Have you no shame?" Human soldiers cursed, realizing Cecil's scheme to break Lu Bu and lower their morale. Even the centaur archers looked at Cecil with disdain. It was a cowardly, dishonorable tactic to exhaust or kill Lu Bu. Without Lu Bu, the humans would lose their primary source of inspiration and defense. "You think I'd agree to your wheel war?" Lu Bu sneered. Cecil smiled. "I believe you will. I have 33 legendary orcs. You killed 2, 31 remain. If you kill them all, I will retreat and promise no war for 3 months. Lu Bu stopped in his tracks. Despite his strength, 31 legendary orcs and 8 million troops could easily raze Qianyu City. They could overwhelm Su Long and Lu Bu, leaving the humans defenseless. It was a losing war, but this was a turning point. If he held out for a few days, Yanhuang reinforcements would arrive and turn the tide. If he refused, the city would fall today, and Andrew's cause would be lost. My grand plan would suffer a massive blow, stalling the Empire's progress. Lu Bu gripped his halberd tightly. The pressure was immense. Cecil had struck at his core desire. Saving the city was for the Empire and me. Lu Bu fell silent. Cecil waited calmly. Regardless of the choice, Cecil had already succeeded in shaking human morale. "Feng Xian, return. Don't fall for his trap," Su Long urged. Lu Bu ignored him, staring at Cecil. "Why should I trust you?" Lu Bu could not resist the temptation. "Believe it or not, the choice is yours. Trust me and duel, or refuse, and I shall storm the city." Cecil shrugged, looking relaxed. Cecil controlled the pace. If Lu Bu refused, the city was doomed. By accepting, Lu Bu could at least thin the enemy's elite ranks. After long deliberation, Lu Bu slammed his halberd into the ground. Thud! Dust rose as Lu Bu declared coldly, "I, Yanhuang's Lu Bu, accept your challenge." He stood defiant before the 8 million, choosing to remain on the field. "Feng Xian, you are too greedy. 31 of them. They might kill you." Su Long watched in anxious helplessness. He couldn't recall Lu Bu, as the duel had already begun. Forcing a retreat now would shatter the army's morale. Privately, Su Long hoped for a miracle. Qianyu City's situation was dire, and perhaps Lu Bu could turn the tide. Lu Bu sighed inwardly. "Old god of war, I must be greedy for this victory. For the Yanhuang Empire and the Emperor Lord, I must accept this challenge." Prince Cecil laughed and waved his hand. "Attack!" 31 orc legendary realm warriors emerged, brandishing various weapons and glaring at Lu Bu with malicious intent. To save time, attack together. If you win, I withdraw. If you lose, I will return your corpse to the Yanhuang Empire. Cecil floated above, looking down at Lu Bu with the condescension of a superior. "Foolish human general, you cannot stop the orcs. I will slaughter you before your own soldiers to provoke them into a reckless charge." Cecil's coldness sparked outrage among the humans. "Shameless. This is a gang fight, not a duel. General Lu is in danger." Human soldiers roared in fury, wishing the orcs would attack the city so they could fight back. Su Long gripped the wall, desperate to join the fray but unable to move. As commander, he and his Su family Iron Guards were Qianyu City's final line of defense. Andrew appeared on the wall. Having traded his imperial robes for armor, he stood beside Su Long, his face etched with shame. If not for Cecil's ambush, he wouldn't need his subordinate to die for him. Lu Bu, however, remained silent, leading his red hair forward. Lu Bu recalled the Emperor Lord's praise. Lu Bu among men, red hair among horses. He vowed to clear the path to the summit for his lord. I shall repay the Emperor Lord's favor now. Let the battle begin. Lu Bu gripped his halberd, his eyes burning with resolve. As he spoke, the 31 orcs charged with a deafening roar. The orcs coordinated perfectly, tigers and bears for power, foxes and cats for assassination, and wolf riders for speed. Their combined gang chi shook the earth for 10 miles. A typical human legendary warrior can face 5 peers. Elites like Zhao Zilong or the Third Elder can handle over 10. Lu Bu faced 31. The odds were slim, but he fought for that sliver of hope. Mounted combat was impossible. He wouldn't risk red hair. Lu Bu charged on foot, shouting, "Kill!" A tiger warrior lunged, his blade surging with overwhelming, tangible gang chi. Clang, Lu Bu parried, his arms trembling under the tiger's immense strength. Suddenly, a fox warrior struck from the side, aiming a dagger at Lu Bu's ribs. A sharp pain pierced my side. Lu Bu dodged frantically, parrying the tiger while narrowly avoiding the fox's blades. Daggers scraped my armor, throwing sparks. Before I could recover, a cat warrior drove a thin sword into a gap in my shoulder armor. Blood sprayed. Lu Bu roared in pain. "Get lost!" Swinging my halberd with a burst of gang chi, I cleaved the cat warrior in two. The remaining orcs pressed on, undeterred. 2 bear warriors swung giant axes, their pressure suffocating. Lu Bu, ignoring my wounds, braced for the next assault. Under the relentless onslaught, my injuries mounted. After killing a fox and a tiger, a bear warrior caught me with a heavy axe blow. Lu Bu was sent flying, crashing into the ground. "General," the humans cried out in horror. "Weak," the orcs sneered. A fox tried to finish me, but the tiger stopped him. "Wait for him to rise." The orcs stood back, respecting the duel. While Cecil wanted Lu Bu dead, the orcs refused to strike a downed opponent. Cecil frowned, silent. He knew his warriors' pride. They had already compromised by ganging up on me. It was, after all, a duel. Lu Bu groaned, using my halberd to stand and suppressing my wounds with gang chi. "He's up," the soldiers cheered. "Can you still fight?" the tiger asked. The tiger signaled the others to resume the assault. "Forgive me, but you must die. We will give you a dignified end." "Fight again," Lu Bu roared, charging forward. I wouldn't stop until they were all dead. Within moments, I was hammered back, covered in dozens of new wounds. My armor was shattered, my body soaked in blood, yet I had taken 5 more orcs with me. Again, Lu Bu rose, breathing heavily, and charged. Boom! I was struck down again, my left arm severed by an axe, but I claimed 6 more lives. It took minutes for me to crawl back to my feet. The orcs, also wounded, took a moment to recover. "He's a madman." I had no defense, only relentless, suicidal offense. The remaining orcs watched me with shock and fear. Blood blurred my vision, but Lu Bu shook my head to clear the dizziness. Before 8 million enemies, I picked up my halberd with my remaining hand and spat blood. Fight again. I would not retreat. The battlefield fell silent, save for the sounds of clashing steel and Lu Bu's roars. Millions watched the trembling warrior and the dwindling orcs. Blood flowed, and more orcs fell. Each time Lu Bu was struck, I rose again, shouting, "Fight again!" Tears streamed down the faces of the human soldiers on the walls. "God of War, send troops. He's dying. We can't. A charge now is suicide." Su Long closed his eyes in agony. If he sent his 900,000 troops out, they would be slaughtered, and the city would fall. For the sake of the Empire, he had to watch Lu Bu fight like a lone wolf. Su Long's hand trembled on his sword, his veins bulging. On the walls, the Bingzhou wolf cavalry howled in grief, tears falling from the eyes of these hardened warriors. It is a tragedy that the soldiers can only watch their general fight to the death. Lu Bu has lost count of how many times he has risen. His right arm was severed to block an attack, and his left, clutching his halberd, trembles violently. His armor is shattered beyond recognition. Covered in his own blood and that of the orcs, he resembles a demon emerging from a pool of gore, his eyes burning through the crimson mask. With unyielding intent, Lu Bu locks eyes with the final legendary realm orc. The Tiger Man stands before him, trembling not from fear, but from sheer exhaustion. "Fight!" Lu Bu rasps, his voice sounding inhumanly powerful. Unable to lift his weapon, He drags his halberd across the ground toward the tiger man. Scrape. The sound of metal on stone echoes as Lu Bu prepares his final strike, refusing to retreat. He vows to die before Qianyu City. Having slain 30 of the 31 legendary realm orcs in an hour, he has cemented his status as Yin Huang's greatest warrior. Thud. Before Lu Bu reaches him, the tiger man collapses, foaming at the mouth, and dies on the spot. The orc, a master of endurance, was literally exhausted to death by Lu Bu. Silence falls over the city walls. Su Long watches, trembling with disbelief and excitement. Lu Bu has won. The battlefield falls into a deathly hush as everyone stares at the swaying, blood-soaked figure. The sight of this broken, blood-drenched human is terrifying. Yet he remains standing. Emperor Lord, I have not failed your trust. Fengxian still has strength to fight for you. Lu Bu clings to his final shred of consciousness to stay upright. Taking a breath, he forces his left hand to raise the halberd, pointing it at the 8 million-strong army. With blood-red eyes, he bellows at Prince Cecil, "Retreat. I have won." A breeze sweeps across the Gobi Desert before Qianyu City. Standing amidst the corpses of 31 legendary realm orcs, the stench of blood cannot suppress the boiling fervor of the human soldiers. They watch the arrogant, swaying figure and hear his roar, "Retreat." A Bingzhou wolf cavalryman strikes his armor and joins the cry, "Retreat! Retreat! Retreat! Retreat!" The 800,000 humans erupt into a frenzy of shouts. Soldiers swarm the walls, cheering for Lu Bu and the victory of the human race. As morale peaks, Prince Cecil remains cold and indifferent. He wonders how I managed to recruit such a formidable legendary warrior. Cecil admits his trap, designed to bait Zhao Zilong, the third elder, and Su Long, was shattered by Lu Bu. This man, with his iron will, could not be stopped by 31 legends. Beast Monarch, what now? A deputy general asks nervously, "Should we withdraw?" All the orc generals turn to Cecil. Cecil surveys his 8 million soldiers, who grip their weapons with a mix of frustration and newfound respect. Lu Bu's martial prowess has earned the grudging admiration of his enemies. He is a warrior who never compromises and fights to the end, a man worthy of respect. Even the 8 million soldiers wait for the order to retreat. Orcs value strength and honor the victors of a duel. It is a core tenet of their race. Many soldiers lower their bows, and the behemoth riders remove their helmets to salute Lu Bu. Lu Bu is now purely fueled by willpower. His gang qi is dry, and his body is a wreck of broken bones and internal hemorrhaging. He endures the agony, desperate to see the orcs leave. "Cecil, retreat." Lu Bu's voice is weak but firm. "I won. Fulfill your promise." The human soldiers roar in support, while Su Long keeps his eyes locked on Cecil. After a moment of silence, Cecil raises his hand, and the battlefield goes still. "You are powerful. Though I hate to admit it, you are the finest human I have ever seen." Cecil looks at him with complex eyes. "I am jealous of me for having a general who would die for me." Su Long is surprised. Cecil actually intends to keep his word. He feels a weight lift from his heart, realizing he underestimated the orc leader's sense of honor. Qianyu City is safe, or so he thinks, until Cecil continues. "I offer you a chance. Defect to the orcs, and I will make you a king, second only to me." Cecil smiles, attempting to recruit him on the battlefield. "Shameless," the humans cry. "He knows he can't win, so he tries to poach our general." "Shameless orcs." Lu Bu sneers, coughing blood. "Retreat. Don't waste your breath trying to recruit me." Cecil persists. "You are just a common general in Yinhuang. Bai Qi is a war god, Zhao Zilong is a commander, and even Hua Mulan leads more troops. Are you not resentful?" Cecil gestures to his 8 million soldiers. "Join me, Lu Bu, and all these troops will be yours to command." Offering 8 million troops to recruit one man shows how highly Cecil values his potential. Su Long watches, wondering if Lu Bu will be tempted. It is an offer few warriors could resist. Lu Bu spits blood at Cecil, baring his crimson teeth. "You want me to defect?" Lu Bu laughs wildly. "I was born of Yinhuang, and I will die for Yinhuang. Even if I were just a foot soldier, I would have no regrets. I am human. I will never side with beasts." Lu Bu holds his head high. I am a man of Yanwang. Su Long shouts from the wall. No regrets in this life as a human, and I shall return to Yanhuang in the next. The human soldiers are moved to tears. This is the pride of a race, a pride so deep that they would die to defend it. The chant rises. No regrets in this life as a human, and I shall return to Yanhuang in the next. The roar of 8 million orcs echoed like a tidal wave, causing the entire army to recoil in sudden shock. The human race had achieved an unprecedented level of unity, all thanks to me, who had forged them into an unbreakable, thorn-filled spear. Prince Cecil watched the proud Lu Bu and the roaring humans, a smile playing on his lips. I spoke at length only to see how long you could hold out, Cecil remarked. As I suspected, you have no strength left to fight. Lu Bu leaned heavily on his halberd, barely able to remain upright. What do you mean? Lu Bu demanded hoarsely. Cecil laughed. Since you refuse to submit, I grant you death. He waved his hand, ordering the drums to sound and the entire army to assault the city. Cecil never intended to spare such a formidable general. His promise of retreat was a calculated lie from the start. Chinyu City must fall, and Lu Bu must die. Enraged by the betrayal, Lu Bu coughed up blood as the 8 million-strong orc army prepared to storm the city. Boom, boom, boom. The war drums thundered, forcing the reluctant orc soldiers to launch their assault on Chinyu City. Damn it! Save General Lu! The human soldiers roared, throwing open the gates. I shouted orders for Su Air, Su San, and Su Si to lead a rescue team and retrieve the general. Caught between the city and the advancing orc tide, the exhausted Lu Bu faced certain death.